run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
All right.
It's about to go down.
Yes, we are here on Tuesday night. You know, we have your NFL reaction. We have your college football reaction. And on top of that, we have a special guest. So I'm going to let him introduce himself real quick. But before that, do me a favor, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Mr. Jack Moore is in the building. Sir, tell the good people where they can find you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. I have all of my stuff is under More to Consider. I'm on X, I'm on Rumble, I'm on YouTube. We do a lot of, do some politics, a lot of football, a lot of baseball. I'm a college baseball coach. And as you can tell, I'm a huge Washington Redskins fan. So I'm still going through some issues with the history, the name change and all that. But I grew up 70 miles from DC, went to games there all the time. So that's where you can find me on the platforms, and everything is at moretoconsider.com.
All right. So, of course, I'm 2-5. That's Mr. Logical wearing his Falcon gear so he can antagonize us tonight.
Nah, it won't be that bad. I'm not a brazen fan, you know what I mean? I'm a normal fan.
But it's all good. We're going to take it from the top. So something happened Sunday night that we don't generally see very often, an NFL game ending in a tie. So I just wanted to ask these guys, get their opinions. Is that a thing? Do we want ties to decide these football games?
Well, when they first went to the overtime, gosh, I'm trying to remember what year it was. I know they went to the 16-game schedule in 78. I think it was around the same time frame, and they went to the 15-minute extra quarter. Whoever scores first wins, and then they massaged that a little bit because they felt like, well, somebody can win the coin toss, walk right down the field, kick a field goal, game's over. And then they went to the 10-minute, and that was, I think, something to do with the Players Association feeling like the 15 might be too much of a stretch after playing the full game. So this is what happens. You get 10 minutes and you get a tie. I mean, it could have been 15 and gotten a tie. But, I don't know any other way around it.
I'm with it.
I'm
with it. Listen,
go ahead.
You did 60 minutes. You got your extra 10, and this is your result. If you really wanted to win the game, you should have stopped them. Green Bay can thank Micah Parsons for chasing down Dak. I allow the guy that chased down Tony Romo on that drop snap because Dak was going to score in that scramble inside the 5. Mm-hmm. If Micah Parsons wasn't relentless and just seeing Jerry Jones with like a bull just chasing down 4, he's like, my job was to kill 4. And he was really running hard. Like this was probably 5 or 7 minutes left in overtime. So that's a lot of football you played for him to chase down Dak, saving that touchdown. And then I don't know what Green Bay was doing with the clock at the end. They probably could have got 2 plays off, but they got lucky with 1 second left on the clock because Jordan Love holds that ball literally for 1 more second, or it gets tipped up in the air twice and then lands. They lose that game. So you took the tie. I mean, it could help you in playoff seeding. It could hurt you. It just depends on how it plays out. But if it hurts them, they can only blame themselves because some pundits were saying this is Dak's greatest game he's ever played considering the circumstances. And you guys don't pull out a win, that's on you.
Well, for me, it was that whole thing, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a soldier dies but one. That's what Green Bay did with the clock. They didn't want to lose the game, so they did everything they could to get down there and get the field goal. So they went for the touchdown on that last play. But to your point, they could have probably saved about 20 to 30 seconds if they had a little bit more urgency. I don't like it, so sudden death might be a stretch, but I think that's been the best system that we've had because you have a defense. It's not as if we're doing a hockey shootout and whoever, makes the goal wins the game or whatever the case may be. Your defense is out there to stop the offense. So stop the offense and get the ball back. I know that the most famous incident that kind of led to this, besides the player association thing, was Josh Allen and
the 13-second game
against Kansas City, where Kansas City scored and they didn't get the ball. So then it became, so I get it for the playoffs. But if we're just talking about the regular season, go out there and get your win.
Yeah, I like sudden death for the regular season because they did the sudden death because at first it was sudden death and that carried into the playoffs. You had the 13-second game, which shouldn't be connected to this rule change because what Kansas City did in that game was so remarkable. That's what the game should be remembered for. It should be remembered for the fact that they got a kickoff, 13 seconds left, and got in field goal range, and then win the overtime and won the game. That should be it. It shouldn't be like that led to this rule change as if Kansas City has some kind of advantage. The coin toss is an advantage for you no matter what. If you get the coin toss in the beginning of the game and you get the ball at the beginning of the second half, you get a touchdown at the end of the second half, you get the ball back, that's your advantage. No one changes that. So I just feel like, the time, like I like sudden death, just bring it back for the regular season, especially you talk about the NFLPA and playing extra minutes. Cool. If the team gets in field goal range, especially with a team like Dallas, they're in field goal range at the 45.
Oh, yeah.
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 So you give it to them at the 35, they get 20 yards.
Yeah, the Giants know all about that.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's one thing I can say because I'm all the time old man talking about how much better I think the game was years ago. But that is one thing that is really advanced is kicking. The guys are now, I mean, they're inside of 70. It's a shot. It's a pretty good shot. And I don't remember anything, of course, growing up watching it, it was 45. You better hope to get it to 45 because if you push 50, it was going to be trouble. But these guys kicking today, it's insane how far they can kick and accurate. So you're right. You don't have to get nearly as close as you used to be really in danger of winning the game.
Right. So that was
too many tweaks.
That was an interesting end to the game. I was upset by it because this is the ultimate sport, so I just want a winner. But carrying on here, so Jackson Dart got his first start. Came back. Won the game. So this is one of the things, right? He didn't play well.
Right.
But I think it was one of those things where Russell Wilson just couldn't be depended on. He was going to take the safe way out. He was going to throw the ball into the tunnel, whereas Jackson Dart brings a certain young energy. And I think that for the rest of the team, they don't mind if you screw up. They know he's young. They don't mind if you screw up. Just take the chance and show us that, you're willing to go all out.
One thing and this is way off subject, but on subject. One thing with Wilson, I've always wondered about. You heard the whole Marshawn Lynch thing with the phone number, right? And the phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when I heard that, like he wouldn't give Lynch his actual personal number. Like when he got the call that was a blocked number or something, he was like, "That's my quarterback." Like he's not even. So when you play at that level, I'm sure the stories I hear for sure. You guys have played sports. New guy, new energy. You're right. They're all trying to pull from the same end of the rope. And I think he only had 115, 120 yards passing. It wasn't like
I think it was 111. Yeah.
I think he had like 36 to 40 yards rushing and 111, 112 passing.
But I think the team rallied around it. I mean, it's a new energy. Now the question will be, can he sustain it? Of course, where do you go from here? But it definitely looked like the team rallied around him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was saying that from the draft, like pre-draft, when they signed Jameis and Russell, because we all thought that Shador was in line to go to the Giants.
Right.
So when they signed Russell and Winston, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then they trade back into the first because we did the live show like concurrent with the draft. I was like, so they traded back into the first to get Jackson Dart, but they paid Russell Wilson and it just didn't make any sense. I felt like if Brian Dable's job was on the line, then let him start fresh and see what he can build because you weren't gonna crash through the ceiling with Russell Wilson. And you could tell when Jackson Dart got pulled out of the game for the concussion independent neurologist, they called a play for Russ. He ran straight into the back of the guard.
Mhm.
It's like, this is why you're not in the game. Like, for some reason, you're not making plays. And I think Jackson Dart was like willing to make the plays. And Dabo was loving it. I think he loves a new energy. I think he feels like this is a new lease on the season.
Right.
Because we, like,
I mean, they got the Saints
going
this
3-14.
They got the Saints
That's
this
2
week. They
in-
might just go
that's
back
2
to
in a
back.
row. Back
And-
to back, absolutely.
And you know, and that's the thing about it, though. Whereas, you know, me, because I'm just me, I'm like, you should have fired him already just for the fact that this is the reaction when Jackson Dart comes in. You could have used that week 1. You know, like,
Well,
like
that's
it's only week
Joe
4
Shane's
right
fault
now.
for signing 2 quarterbacks.
That is true, but you know, but it's only
We've
week
seen
4.
another team make that mistake. Like, because we talked about Atlanta when Atlanta signed Kirk Cousins. It's like, you can't be running 2 simultaneous programs with the same position, considering you're not going to get anything out of one guy completely.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
like, that's why I was like, you got to look at what these other teams are doing that made them successful, and the things that they do that have been the setback. The Atlanta signing was a setback. I can't believe the Giants went and did essentially the exact same thing the following year. Granted, they got less money involved, but it's the same concept where you're just holding on to this veteran. Let the young guy run it.
Yeah, you know, oh, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, looking historically too, I've always thought about this dynamic with the quarterback position, and there have definitely been some changes, but until really kind of Jim Plunkett failing a couple of places, number 1 pick with the Patriots, goes a little bit 49ers, and then resurrects with the Raiders, which kind of people do, but he wins a couple of Super Bowls. Doug Williams, of course, won one with us. He didn't start with it, but you look historically, I mean, pretty much across the board, guys that win a lot of Super Bowls for you. And of course, Brady did the back end of his career, but he was drafted by the Patriots. Elway was drafted by the Broncos. Troy Aikman with the Cowboys. Pretty much, if you're going to win multiple Super Bowls with a quarterback or kind of be in the running, Mahomes with Kansas City, they tend to be the guys. Where I'm going with that is bringing Wilson in, and what the Steelers are doing now, bringing in Rodgers. There's not a lot of history of that working. There's some, like I've given you, but I don't know how much that's really worked to get a veteran guy after that many years and come in and really shake things up that much. Everybody seems to try to do it, but I think if you're looking at a blueprint, generally, it's draft a guy. He's got to be your guy.
And I don't understand why everyone's straying from the blueprint either.
And that's the thing,
that's
Jackson
more successful.
Jackson Dart didn't come in as a guy that people viewed as a project. He wasn't a guy that, he's raw, he's going to need a season or 2. Like people thought that Jackson Dart was ready to play right away. Right. So that's why it just didn't even make sense. Whereas in Cleveland, we'll get to them in a little bit, but in Cleveland, they started the veteran, the Super Bowl champion, and they have these 2 young unknowns. So that makes a little bit more sense. I didn't like them starting Joe Flacco, but it makes a little more sense why they did. The Giants didn't need to. Now speaking of Atlanta,
Cleveland was probably better off with Kenny Pickett.
Maybe
at least having a young quarterback room would make sense, because Kenny Pickett being a young quarterback, he's going through his growing pains. He's been in the league a few years.
We'll talk about it.
You're not going to get rid of him. It all ties together. You're not going to get rid of him. Joe Flacco having a few bad games and he's 40. The fans will be like, all right, come on. We know this isn't going to work. Like you could not like the Pickett in position, but you knew Flacco 1-3, 0-4, 1-5, whatever that start was, fans are gonna be like, yo, why is he here? Bring one of the young guys in. But if you had a younger guy, might have worked out better. Cleveland has a pretty tough defense. They always have. Kenny Pickett can make 2 or 3 throws a game. You just hope that he gets them to Jerry Jeudy and not the defense.
Bringing in that veteran guy too. I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I don't know that Flacco really has a reputation as being the great mentor to a younger group of guys. Fair? I mean, I think
that's fair.
Yeah. He's talked about it all the time. Like, I'm here to be a starter.
Yeah. And I remember that famously with Favre said he got a little bit of that energy from the team. Like, hey, you want to help Aaron along? He's like, no, I'm the starter. Like, I'm not here. I'm not here to babysit Aaron Rodgers. So
I don't want him. I'm not here to help him take my job.
Yeah. So that's a dynamic too. I think that there's this idea you bring in veteran guy, he's going to be good for the quarterback room, but Not if he's trying to keep the job. I mean, if he knows his job and his job is to bring along this younger guy. I mean, there's guys certainly. Don Strock did that for a ton of quarterbacks, including Marino. That was kind of his career. But he was a fabulous guy off the bench. But, he was a good mentor guy because he knew he was a lifetime backup.
Right.
Chase Daniel's a good mentor guy. Lifetime backup. Case Keenum. Certain guys. Kirk Cousins is doing a good job of it. He's very humble guy,
he's a class act.
Getting $90 million. I could be your backup for $90 million.
Right. Well, Dylan Gabriel is going to get the start against Minnesota this weekend because Joe Flacco can't stop punting with his arm. Like he gives the other team decent field position all the time. So Dylan Gabriel's coming in. So what are we expecting to see from Dylan Gabriel?
A lot of what Tua did last night. I imagine that if you looked at the Miami game plan from last night and then you watch Cleveland next week, I imagine it'll look a lot like that. Darren Waller got 2 touchdowns last night because, Tua doesn't have a great arm, but he can hit a big tight end. And Njoku, if he's healthy and he can get that play action rollout, I imagine he's going to have a big day. A lot of drag routes, a lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. Brian Flores is going to have 11 guys at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden it's cover 2. Or it's be 11 guys at the line of scrimmage, and he's going to bring 6. And he's going to go man across the board after that. So Dylan Gabriel not being the biggest guy is going to have to be quick reads. But with that being said, those quick reads going to get jumped because Brian Flores like, listen, he's not taking any shots over the top. Jump this screen. Like, it's just jump it, and we'll live with the results. Like, if they score off of it, whatever. Like, it won't happen all game. It's going to be there's going to be a game where he throws a couple of like freebies to the Minnesota defense just because the look's going to be so exotic.
Yeah,
and then Cleveland's going to have it even more of a controversy.
Yeah, I was just looking online. He's a couple of months shy of being 25 years of age as well. So I think that probably works in his favor a little bit. When guys, the few years ago when guys were like skipping their senior year or earlier and they were jumping right in the NFL and they were truly 21 years old with maybe one good season in college. And I don't know the total extent of his career in college as far as number of games, but it was one thing, kind of getting back to our hometown here. Jaden Daniels had played a lot of college games before last year, and he was pushing 24. So I think that helps. But yeah, anytime it's a game plan with the guy that's kind of new to it, you try to give him as much as he can possibly be comfortable with, but that's going to be predictable. Like you say, if it's a lot of check down short stuff, they're going to be jumping all over it. So maybe they take their chances and try to do some bigger stuff with that, but you just got to get the guy comfortable, as comfortable as he could possibly be when everything starts to move really fast.
Yeah, like I said, he played a lot of college football. I think it was like UCF, Oklahoma, then
Oregon.
That's right.
Me or them,
That's right.
But yeah, so Dylan Gabriel is going to be in a tough, rock hard place. That's a tough coordinator to start your season against. Start your career against for better luck. So good luck to him.
He has the opportunity to put a lock on a position because we're going to have a lot of people saying, "Oh, Shador should have started over him." As like,
and then so with Joe Flacco, there's just certain things that you can't depend on. Let me do this real quick.
Yeah. So with the like we talked about the quarterbacks in Cleveland and Dylan Gabriel, he was a 3rd round pick. So
right, that's right.
I'm gonna start the 3rd round pick over the 5th round pick. Everyone's gonna say, "Oh, Shador's ready." It's like there's no evidence to say one guy is more ready than the other. The only evidence we really have to go on is like, well, we took this guy in the 3rd round through camp. We had him 2nd on the depth chart, so let's put him out there, see what he can do. Give him a couple of games. If not, you run it back. Maybe you run Shador out there. You give him a couple of games. You knew it was going to be a problem in Cleveland because they had. I think at one time in the training camp, they still have Deshaun Watson on contract. They had Flacco, Kenny Pickett, both rookies, and then they signed Huntley. I think they had Dorian, another guy. They had like 7 quarterbacks.
That was the talk in the summer. Yeah, so many people there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just looked up too.
Guys in camp.
Gabriel actually played 63 games in college, and he actually broke the record. So that answers that question right there. He did actually get in 63 college games. So I just got to help. Plus, you got to wonder, too, leading up to where we are now in Cleveland, how much preparation? I mean, how many weeks back were they, maybe giving him more reps in practice, maybe trying to really feel the dynamics of him potentially being the starter?
A lot of the reports leaned heavy on Shador because I think he's the more polarized guy, he's the more popular guy. And I believe a lot of the reports were saying we're just basically counting his reps. They weren't talking about Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
They would talk about Dylan Gabriel if he messed up. So it's kind of setting them up for failure. And that I blame Cleveland for that. But like you say, he played 63 college games, almost 25 years old. He's been through this.
Yep.
He understands, like, hey, I'm here to perform. And I think Shador is the same way. I think Shador is there to perform. It's just that he's so polarizing that anything he says gets scrutinized and gets broken down. It's like, if I'm like, because I think a lot of people are critiquing him over his comment about, I'm looking around the league and I think I could be a starter. People are, saying, oh, you need to be a backup and learn that part first. It's like, listen, if you are wearing a uniform and you don't think you can start over another guy, then why are you on a team? Like, if a linebacker's on the sideline, they're like, yo, so-and-so's out getting the games. Like, oh, I didn't think I'd be ready for this moment. You would vilify him. So he's like, yo, I think I could be doing better than this.
Yeah, that's a special dynamic, though, about what you say, what you may think. But sure, if you're going into first of all, and this is, again, my old man stories. I'll never forget when after Schrader got shipped out and it was Doug Williams and Mark Rippon, this really struck me as kind of bad, but a lot of people thought it was a sweet answer. He got into a thing with him and Doug Williams back and forth, and I think Williams had the appendectomy that one year, and so then Rippon kind of got thrown in, and and I'll never forget this, he's on Monday Night Football, and they said, hey, Mark, it seems like it's 1 and 1A at quarterback. How do you feel about it? He goes, I don't really care who starts as long as we win. And I thought, if I'm your teammate, I don't want you in the huddle. It was a politically correct answer. But if you're up front for me on the offensive line, I want to make sure that you think I'm the guy, not, oh, yeah, I don't care, him, me, whatever. That's kind of what you're saying. There's nothing wrong with somebody coming out and saying, I think I should be the starter. If you don't feel that, now the question is, what do you say? Do you say anything? I mean, you try to avoid saying anything. But you certainly want everybody in the locker room to want to be that guy. If they get called to be that guy. I mean, there's some guys that are clearly role players and they know it. But yeah, I think your quarterback has, like, in the example I gave to people after, I said there was never a time when Kubiak, the backup back in those days for Elway, that Elway ever thought, that's okay, let him run it for it. No, John Elway was going to be like, no, I'm the starter. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, everybody's buying 7 jerseys, not 17.
Exactly.
All right, so last question from me on this, and I'm sorry if you guys already addressed it because obviously I was having some technical difficulties here. But so let's say Dylan Gabriel's ineffective. Do you go back to Flacco, or do you, I
don't think you can go back to Flacco.
Here's what we don't know.
I think Flacco's holding the clipboard.
Here's what, with everything that Sanders has been through, I don't know what the sports psychology measurement is with that club, but there's been a lot on him. Some of it self-imposed, we all know. Some of it not fair, whatever, right? But there may be a view in that front office. If we put him out and he fails miserably, you've ruined that kid. You know what I'm saying? There might be some sheltering going on. So let's go ahead and run this other kid out there. He can absorb it. He's all, like we said, he's almost 25. We just looked it up. I just looked it up. He's got 63 college games. So on that question.
Right. And not just 63 games, but I mean, big time programs. He was at Oklahoma. He was at Oregon.
Yeah. So I'm sure they feel like he can absorb a lot more. If we're fair between the two of them, we know who's going to get the most heat if there's failure. So that's the thing we don't know. We don't know from not being at practice just how competent does Sanders appear at this time. I mean, maybe they know he's ready, but I think they also may be trying to shelter him from, like, let's face, I'm not saying they're the same person at all, but like Johnny Manziel, not anything could have gone. And that was a lot self-inflicted, but you know what I'm saying? Once it went down in flames, it went down in flames. And then there's no getting it back. And there's been a number of guys like that. They get thrown to the wolves, so to speak. Some of it might be, like I said, self-imposed or self-inflicted, but they may be trying to shelter him a little bit on when he gets his first opportunity. They got to feel like he's right for it. And he's going to be able to absorb what may come if it doesn't go well. Flacco doesn't care. You can keep throwing Flacco out there, but I agree with you. And then you have to look at Cleveland. You think that they necessarily in any way, shape, or form that, oh, this is the year. This is run off another 12 wins.
It's interesting that you bring that up because the Ravens. So I don't know how we feel about the Steelers right now. I don't know how we feel about the Steelers right now, but I'm not thinking that the Steelers are this consistent team that's going to just run away with the division. Obviously Cincinnati is just a whole nother situation right now. Baltimore.
They are the worst. That offensive line looks like the Walmart security guards. Remember Black Friday when people were just knocking through all the doors? I saw one play. They rushed 3 guys. They rushed 3 guys. They rushed 3 guys last night. I know I'm going to get you back on topic. I just was on my head. They rushed 3 guys. They had the guard, 2 guards in the center and the running back pick up the 1 nose tackle, and the 2 defensive ends both met at the quarterback. Right. It was 4 guys on 1 guy, and they rushed 3 guys. I'm like, who coaches that?
Right.
But Ravens
a guy
trouble,
that's about
whole
to be
AFC
out of his
North
job, but that's a whole nother conversation. But with the Ravens, not only are they giving up 33 points a game, not only that, but now you got Roquan Smith is hurt. Humphrey.
They got a ton of guys hurt.
7 of their starters are hurt.
Yes, is Lamar going to play this weekend? And they're playing against Houston, so this would be a game that you would feel that if we have our guy, we can get back on track and start to build a little momentum. But after that, I mean, not saying that Cleveland has a chance to win the division, but I think that now your view kind of changes a little bit where, hey, we were just trying to get a top 10 pick maybe and just let these young guys get some experience. But now we might luck into something.
Like luck into 9 and 8.
I doubt it.
You still got to be able to perform straight up, Tommy. Yeah, you still got to be able to perform from the quarterback position. I know we are all enamored with quarterbacks, and they say it's the most important position.
It's not.
I still believe the offensive line is the most important position group. I think the quarterback, you need the best relationship between coach, quarterback, coordinator for that to work. I think offensive line, if they are taught properly, the 5 of them or the 6 of them, they have a different kind of bond. You see like the Eagles linemen drinking beer with the opposing linemen after the joint practice. Linemen are just different. They're just gritty and they operate as one already. The quarterback, the coach, and the coordinator have to be in a certain type of marriage for it to work. And that also extends to everybody else. Offensive line, listen, I got to block my guy, rotate to my guy, know where my guy is, and we're all good. So I think that's the most important position because that can wreck your season as the Bengals. But with the quarterback situation in the AFC North, I think Cooper Rush could get you a win over Houston if you give the ball to Derrick Henry 28 times. Just give it to him 28 times. If he goes 28 carries for 107 yards, that's not a lot per carry, but that's a 6'4", 250-pound guy running into defenders 28 times on top of if you check it down to him. So you're going to control the clock, keep your defense off the field. Your defense is just, they're Olay out there like bullfighters as well. So get back to the basics because when these guys started playing football at 5, 6, 7 years old, they just ran the ball. That's what they learned. Everybody played running back. Lamar was a running back, I'm sure, at 6. Derek was a running back. I'm pretty sure Tim Tebow was a running back at 6. Everybody that had speed at 6, 7, 8 years old when they were learning football, they ran the ball. Get back to those basics, and I think you'll be fine because no one's going to run away with your division. You talk about the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers' numbers were 18 for 22 for 200 yards, touchdown. It's a good game. Yeah, 1 catch was 80 yards. So he was 17 for 21 for 120 yards. So it's like, it wasn't like he's lighting it up either. So I think you can overcome if you just keep it simple. Go get another big back because every time they put Justice Hill in the game, you know it's a pass. So like they're so predictable for no reason. Like I was talking about, because I picked the Ravens to win, and Mike said no, because they're the Ravens. They're gonna do this, 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 and this. And I'm watching the game. Like Mike was dead on every single thing he said, because it's like they're so predictable when things kind of get rocky, and that it's not sustainable.
Let me ask you this though. Do you think, because I was actually reading some commentary today just on this whole analysis of, who had the most to lose with the Chiefs and the Ravens? Did the team that lost really, did it strike them the worst? And this commentator made reading a guy today, and he made the point. I think it's a fair one. 10-7 could win that.
Easily.
And the Ravens could still get there. The question is, he said he felt like, and this is what I want to ask you guys, in Ravens land, is it Super Bowl or bust? After always, all these years of kind of getting close, do you think that they are, and if they are in that mindset, 10-7 is not going to get them high enough in the food chain? They're going to get their home game, if they win that division. Right. But then it's going to be tough from that point on. So is it just going to be another disappointing season?
I think so. I mean, obviously you take the injuries into consideration, derailing the season, but coming into the season, absolutely it was Super Bowl or bust. I mean, they were just in the AFC Championship game 2 seasons ago at home, had home field advantage. And then last year, they lost a game that literally slipped out of their fingers.
Yep.
So I mean, so you got to feel that, you're right there, and looking at their schedule here. I had it there.
Yeah, they're Super Bowl or bust. And the problem is they started the season Super Bowl or bust, and then they blew the first game. If they had injuries starting then, like if Derrick Henry got injured that game and they had a couple of games without him, but since they blew the first game, it kind of set the tone like, okay, this is a little off. And then they beat the brakes off of Cleveland. Cool. A lot of turnovers, get some points there. But then you go back-to-back blowouts from Detroit and Kansas City. I think the team right now isn't Super Bowl or bust, like as far as like the personnel. Like I thought they were. I didn't realize like they were just going to just get injured.
Right.
Like everybody that made a big hit, every big collision that game, a Raven player got hurt. So now I think they're going to grade themselves against that Super Bowl or bust expectation they had at the beginning of the year, and then realize now we're not it, but the decisions they make at the end of the year are going to be based off the fact that they came in the season Super Bowl or bust, and like the injuries are going to be like, you know what? This is time to scrap it. Like, especially if it goes sour. If Lamar is out 3 weeks, because I think they have 2 games and a bye.
You're right. I was just looking. Yeah, the bye's coming up.
Right here on the screen, Raph.
Yeah, I just because I had it in my head from earlier because I wanted to give you your flowers for picking Kansas City, so I was like, damn, well maybe they can get back into it, but yeah.
Well, no, because so they got Houston this week. We talked about that. Houston's offense is just, it's worse than Kansas City's was. You figure the Rams will be a loss if Lamar's not there, but then you get Chicago, Tyreek Hill's out now. You get either Carson Wentz or JJ McCarthy. You get Dylan Gabriel, maybe. You get Justin Fields. You get right back in this thing.
Yeah,
but
the Ravens are 31st in defense.
I know, but
so no matter what quarterback you get, 31st in defense, that guy's gonna hit someone open. Like guys are gonna
but think about this. Hold on, time out. We got to add context to this though. They started the season at Buffalo. You know what I mean? They played Detroit. So if they were giving up 30 points to the Arizona Cardinals, then I'd be a little concerned.
They had a 16-point lead with 6 minutes to go at
and
Buffalo.
That's not abnormal for the Ravens. That's what John Harbaugh does.
But that's what I'm saying. So I think people are saying, oh, they played Buffalo. They're saying that, oh, they played Buffalo as if they were in a shootout trying to come from behind. Like the Detroit game was a back and forth thing, and Detroit was just making big plays. That's different. Buffalo, they had them dead to rights, and then they did what for some reason the Ravens are starting to do. It was something that plagued the Falcons after the Super Bowl loss. It just was like you would just lose these games where your win probability was like 98.6. It happened all the time. You have 17-point leads in the fourth quarter. You're not supposed to lose a game when you have a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Right.
It's not enough time. It shouldn't
Hey,
be
the
enough
Steelers
time. But you
almost
give
did it this weekend. You know,
Yeah.
they were up
exactly
24-6.
because execution. Shout out to Arthur Smith and that fabulous play called the goal line instead of rolling Aaron Rodgers out and maybe whatever. It is what it is. I just
All
play
right, so
bad
look,
and have
this
a
is what I was
podcast.
going to say. So before the internet decided to take me out of here, what I was going to say is I really hate fantasy football because I was watching Atlanta and Washington. You know, I was hate watching, of course, because I was like, we can't lose to his team. So then
Right.
Bijan Robinson scores this touchdown. He's on my fantasy team, and I'm like, what? Nope. I hate you, Bijan. You know, I hate fantasy football. But I think we saw the Michael Penix that we thought we were going to see coming into the season.
And that's a team coming off a shutout the week before.
Yep.
Shutout, yeah.
What is that? Like, I was like, as a fan of the burgundy and gold, I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, wait a minute, like they're getting the ball up and down the field pretty easy here. It looks like, and then things just kind of got out of hand.
But that's
we have a lot of secondary
that was
injuries
pissing me
too.
off. That part was pissing me off because I was like, I get that teams happen as NFL teams. You have a bad week, but I look at the game and now I'm trying to all right, try not to be so emotional about it. Just kind of look at it logically. I get it that you have to run the formations and the plays you set up in training camp, but it's so predictable when you're in pistol. It's a stretch to the right for Bijan. Almost every time. And then when the Algiers in, they go to the other way. It's so predictable. Or like the first game when they played against Tampa Bay, they'd run the tight end in motion for like a wham block. It's like the defense knows there's 4 seconds left on the play clock.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody going in motion, he's not going to be able to set and then you snap the ball. Like we know this wham block is coming. And they were stuffing it every time. And it's like, why are they doing these same plays? So then they got a little creative. They took some deeper shots. Moody went out again, but they took those deeper shots. They threw the ball to Kyle Pitts. It's like the game was the first time Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson all scored a touchdown in the same game. That should be the expectation every week. Like, how do we get these 3 guys in the end zone? Because Drake London size, Pitt size, Bijan Robinson size speed combinations. Like, okay, these are no-brainer game plans. And when they lost 30-0, I was like, how did you lose 30-0 with those guys on your offense? And then you come back this week and drop 34 points. But I was calm when they were up, but I was like, you know what? Because Rachel, she was like, oh, I think you like when they're losing so you can yell. I'm like, nah, when they're winning, I like to stay quiet. I don't text anybody. I just keep it quiet because I've seen them blow. To Nick Foles, a 17-point lead. The Dallases, they blew a 17-point lead. Just years and years. I know it's different coaches, different players, but it seems like a lot of these things just kind of linger.
Right.
Marcus Mariota looked good. I didn't like the fact that a backup quarterback looked good against the defense, but AJ Terrell's not out there.
Backup quarterback that played for y'all.
But he can move. So I think the pocket was collapsing and he was moving. Any quarterback that's, I think Mariota's like a 4-4 guy, 4-5 guy. Any regular quarterback, 4-8, 4-9 guys not getting out of there. So I feel good about the rush. He just was getting out of there. He had the one bad interception that kind of changed the momentum, which worked out in our favor. But yeah, overall it's a good game. I was optimistic going forward, but not crazy. I would like to see some more diversity in regards to how they operate out of the pistol. Because right now it looks like it's Bijan to the right out of the pistol almost every time. But how you guys feeling without Jaden Daniels? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Last year when Mariota had to come in, eyeballing it, kind of that eyeball test. I'm like, damn, he's still got something going on. I mean, he's okay. And then, of course, he broke out and had the great game this year. I think Daniels is special. I just don't know. I think Mariota he's going to end up, I think he's going to have to push down. They're going to push it on whether he goes somewhere. I think he's a starter somewhere. Don't you guys? Don't you think he could start somewhere else? Don't you think? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know
if
if anybody the arm consistency to You know, like he's not Justin Fields, you know what I'm saying, by any stretch of the imagination.
But
I
that's
don't
where
know.
he would end up. He'd end up somewhere like the Jets. He'd end up with a rebuild to the point where like their guy is that team's quarterback is a senior in college, and he's going to be there for a year until they draft that guy.
Yeah, I think he's Alex Smith at this point. You know, he's going to be that guy that kind of sets it up, and then you're going to bring in your young prodigy to take over.
Yeah, I'm like I said, kind of getting into that history stuff again. I'm always looking at, like, again, a Plunkett who's a Heisman Trophy winner, first overall pick, goes to the bad team, kind of makes the Patriots better. Then the wheels come off. Then he goes home to San Francisco to be close to home. Somehow when he gets with the Raiders, I'm always wondering, because Mariota was like, what, a second overall pick? He was number 2, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So those guys, there was a time when you were 1-2, you might end up being somewhat of a bust, but you were still kind of considered an elite talent. And I just feel like in the last 10 to 15 years, but again, this might be old man stuff, there's guys going high in the draft. Not that there haven't been busts. I mean, hell, Heath Schuler for us. I mean, that was a huge bust for us. So there's been busts.
Quarterback that wore 21 in college.
And you guys have probably, right, true, yeah. But you guys have probably listened to quite a bit, I have recently, of Ryan Leaf. And man, he's got it all figured out what he did wrong. And I think he's sincere. But as a physical, I know he's always the poster child for the bust, but man, he was physically talented. You know, there was everything he could have done wrong off the field, on the field, and all that went south for him. But I'm saying there's guys that are getting drafted high. And I think a lot of it is because the college game has changed so much, and it's working uphill. It's changing the NFL without question. But there
that was something I wanted to bring up when you brought up Mariota, because the game it seems a lot easier now because Tom Brady talked about this. I think it was last season, where these quarterbacks now they just have one read. You know, if that's not there, take off. And so I think if Mariota came into this NFL that we have right now, he might have been a star.
See, he was a spread guy. He was a spread guy at Oregon. They came into the league. You got to play on the center, play on the center, play on the center. And then you started saying they were drafting 21, 22-year-old guys from college. And they were like, you know what? The field is the same size. The only thing that's really different is the hash marks. If they can get these plays off in college, why can't we get these route combinations off in the pros with better route runners, faster guys? Let's see if we can pull it off. And now the defense is doing crazy stuff where they're doing cover 6 on one side of the field and they're cover 2 on the other side because they have to account for all of these guys in space, guys like Bijan, guys like Christian McCaffrey, dynamic tight ends like Kyle Pitts, Kittle. A lot of these guys who are running these different kinds of routes. Ingram. You know what? So I think Mariota would have worked well, but the problem is now, like you said, they're drafting young quarterbacks and they're just marrying them up with these offensive like-minded coordinators and riding it out. And if it doesn't work, I think they just reset. Like what Arizona did.
Now that I think about it, to your point, now that I'm thinking about it as we're walking this out, I kind of feel like if Mariota went to another team right now, it would kind of be like the Daniel Jones thing, where like they would sit there at 3-0, and you're like, how did this happen?
Right. Yeah. I think that, I mean, he's a physically talented guy, and I think potentially it's not like he's immobile or, there's a lot of positives there. Now, again, the arm talent or the consistency and hitting spots may not be so great. But to that point I was making, I remember a time like when I was growing up, the teams that would win college national championships would be like running the veer. And that 5'9" guy that could run a 4.4, 4.5 that was playing, he was never going to play in the NFL unless they moved him to split end or, that's what it was. Yeah, so then you had to go out and find these guys that were in certain programs that were playing drop back passer. And now some of these kids come out of college. I mean, some of them, hell, have they even taken a snap from under center, right? I mean,
Jackson Dart just clapped when he did the interview with John Gruden. Let me see a snap count. He was like, that's it. He's like, you got a dummy one? He's like, yeah, we call it purple. And he clapped twice. He's like, you just spent all these years clapping.
Yeah.
But he gets in the game and then he wins.
But that's why I even think, not to open that conversation back up, but that's why I think Dylan Gabriel might be all right initially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, he might have a decent quarter starting out until Flores adjusts on him. But I think he might show signs of, hey, he's not that bad. But I was going to ask you all, was there anything else about the NFL that stood out to you this weekend?
Justin Fields. Like, I'm not understanding why I can sit here and watch that he doesn't throw the ball to the first read. Like, why not just set it up to where the first read is shorter intermediate and then give him Garrett Wilson over the top? Because he'll look, and then he'll take off. And then he have like the spectacular 43-yard play. That was on a 4th and 1. They were averaging 8 yards a run. Why are you calling a pass on 4th and 1 when you're getting 8 yards a carry damn near the whole game? Good weather, good field conditions. It wasn't like, oh, well, the field's getting muddy
why?
because of
Because their
rain.
offensive coordinator came up behind Ben Johnson. That's why.
And it's like you just and I know Justin Fields is a physical specimen, and it's like, I get it. He's built not like Cam Newton, but in that path. Like, I think Cam Newton's probably like a couple inches taller, maybe like 15, but like that, just really just abnormally big. How are you a linebacker playing quarterback size person? And I think they get enamored with that to the point where it's like, listen, Dan Marino didn't do any of this, and he was successful throwing the ball. Set it up to where you could do that. Peyton Manning was a statue. He said, listen, if the first read is open, I'm throwing it there. It's just, I just feel like you watch the game and then all the pre-snap penalties, it just feels like they're just ill-prepared because they're trying to do too much. And it's like, you were getting 8 yards a carry. Just keep running the rock. Keep it simple. 2 tight ends. You have one real dynamic wide receiver. Try to get him matched up to where it's one-on-one. And when he has one-on-one, like, tell Justin in the headset, hey, Garrett's got one-on-one on the outside. Check to that.
Right.
Because
what up,
you
Rez?
can't guard him one-on-one. What's going on, Rez?
Right.
But yeah, that was one thing I noticed last night because I watched most of that game because the Denver game was just, I turned it on a couple of times. It's like, yo, Jake, how can you can't get the ball to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? And I looked and saw that he was running for his life. Probably because it's easy. It's easy. I don't want to take over the show, but I think it's easy to get in another coach that can coach up Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Colts are what stood out to me because, I was one of the big detractors, this isn't real, this is a bad dream. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback, all that good stuff like that. And I didn't expect the Rams to dominate them, but I didn't expect it to come down the stretch the way that it did. And and if you look at it, they win the game if A.D. Mitchell doesn't
2 plays.
Lose, yeah.
That in his hold, because it was what?
Right. The hold took away JT's touchdown. Yeah. And that's the crazy part about it, because the Colts last season went to Mile High. And if they win that game, they probably make the playoffs last year. Jonathan Taylor did the exact same thing that AD did the other day.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think you're right. People are recognizing the Colts are for real. And that's, talk about what did we learn? I don't know. It looks like to me, there was times when you used to think, 4, 5, 6 teams might be the team. And Kansas City certainly turned that corner again, and people are looking at them positively again. But it looks like collision course Bills, Eagles. And then there's just too many. It appears to me from what I saw this weekend, highlights and the rest, there's just too many major weaknesses with teams. If it's not their defense, it's their special teams. Like they're getting punts blocked or, there's failures in certain areas. It's hard to find teams that are consistent across the board. There's so many weaknesses and or injury. I don't know. I don't know whether injuries are at some kind of percentage higher than general, but does it not seem like you guys are thinking there's a lot of people getting hurt?
It does. Like we said earlier, 7 starters for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
that collision when Wiggins took the hit, I think he was trying to take Pacheco on, and he got injured. And then I believe it was Tony Romo said, "Well, that's 7 of their 11 starters."
Right.
Yeah,
And
and
for
then
that, and people talk about Lamar quit. Lamar went out, and then 2 more defensive players went out after that. So
right.
it's like it's a very tough situation. Like you said,
And it's not
a
just
lot of
defensive
teams do
players
have
either. It's
holes.
their best defensive
Their
players. It's
best
not like
players, the
this
best
linebacker
offensive
that just
players.
got there. You know what I mean? These are the guys they depend on.
Yeah, and like you said, there's teams that have holes. I think Philly a couple of years ago had that. They like to call it on first things first. They call it a supernatural funk where they just couldn't figure it out. They were winning games,
Right.
but you could tell the vibe was off. I'm feeling like that's kind of rearing its head again in Philly. AJ Brown not getting the ball.
Yes. Well, that
Yeah.
that
Devontae
brings up.
Smith not getting the ball. Like it's one thing. It's like okay, one guy's double covered, the other guy's getting the ball, but neither one of them are getting the ball. And like the offensive coordinator, they're saying like that there's a beef with that communication between him and Jalen in the game plan and the wide receivers, and like it just seems as if there's a disconnect there. I'm not sure when their bye week is, but you can keep winning. And I always quote Greg Popovich, or paraphrasing. He was like, sometimes it's not good to hit that last second shot.
Week 9.
Sometimes you need to lose. That shot needs to not go in, so you're gonna have something to talk about to
Well,
improve on.
you definitely want to peak like late December. So, like, yeah, if you're peaking now and you're struggling late, you may still have the record cumulative wins to get the bye and all that, but you may not be at the right place. What about the AJ Brown thing? Like, one of the things I heard mentioned today on a show was that last year his targets were down, his yards per catch were way up from previous, and his touchdowns were kind of about the same. The guy's point was, at this point in your career at 29 years of age, and you just got paid, I mean, you've got money, then getting less hits, maybe a little less activity, but you're still getting major production. Might want to keep the mouth shut on that kind of thing. Was the argument, because when you're 4-0 and when you're going to social media to kind of make a little dig towards the organization, how does that play in the locker room? Maybe that seems to create some tension. And the quarterback's always the one that feel. I mean, like the things are designed, they're scheming, they're doing what they're doing. And the quarterback's got to do what he can to work within that system, try to keep everybody happy. All the dynamics.
Yeah.
And I got to believe at that level, to get bitched at by wide receivers, especially if it's coming from more than one, it's got to be like one of the biggest problems of being a quarterback. It's kind of like, guys, it's one football. I'll do what I can. But
Right.
in a 4-0 team, generally you're kind of taught like, keep it in-house, don't do it publicly. And that's a behind the doors meeting for me, I think. And it might just be best, given it's not like they've shut him down. He has production, not what it was through. Yeah.
That's the thing. Not only 4-0, you're 4-0 and the champions. And
True.
Yeah. So when you look at this against Tampa the other day, AJ and Devontae combined 4 catches for 36 yards. Jalen Hurts didn't even complete a pass in the second half. He went 0 for 8 in the second half.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Yeah,
he was throwing a lot of passes over AJ Brown's head. That's the disconnect. Is like when you have the offensive line you have in front of you,
right.
You have a quarterback he's a threat to run, good arm, he's a threat outside the pocket. The wide receivers are AJ Brown to go over the middle, Devontae Smith to go over the middle, Dallas Goedert go over the middle, Saquon can catch out of the backfield. When you have those weapons, you shouldn't be at an emotional deficit at the end of the game because you didn't deploy them properly. I'm going to call it on the offensive coordinator. Listen, sometimes just the beginning of the game, trips right, quick screen. Just get, instead of, because you're going to be able to run the ball. You're going to run the ball potentially 20 times with Saquon and probably another 6 or 7 designed runs for Jalen Hurts. You're going to get the runoff. So start the game off, get a couple of quick passes, couple of slants, couple of outs. If you see the one-on-one, throw the back shoulder. with the plays they ran against the Rams last week. They threw that comeback 2 times in a row, and each time he got the pass, shook off the corner, took it down the field. It's like you see that on film, you see it on tape, you saw it happen in crunch moments of the game. Start off the next game with that. Get him the touches early. That way, when it's time to block, he's ready to block because I've already got my hands in there. I've already got hit. I got a couple of grass stains. I didn't embarrass his DB. Like, I could talk my shit now. But if you're not getting him the ball, now he's just getting yapped to by the DB, yapped to by the safety.
Dude getting a layup, right? Like sometimes you just got to see the ball go through the basket, and that'll open up everything else.
Yeah,
so that brings up
an opportunity.
That brings up a really big question, though. What if you're scheming, you're an offensive coordinator, and however it is designed defensively, this team has a weakness, and it's almost like you can. Well, actually, I knew a guy that coached a high level of football, and he had some background working with NFL coaches, and he goes, if you really watch what happens, it is really all about matchups. You're always trying to create schemes to create matchups. When that guy can't tackle this guy, and that's really what it is. So what if you had that matchup in this particular week because of a defensive secondary? You can go to this guy a lot easier. You can go to superstar. Is it ever a mindset? And maybe it is. I think it probably is to some degree. The mindset of the offensive coordinator. Well, I got to keep Timmy happy or Jimmy or Billy. I got to do a little bit to get them a taste of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but
you have to.
Right. That brings up that dynamic. Then we're kind of pacifying people, even though we might be able to keep hammering that same nail, and it's a better thing. Now, you can always bring into the dynamic to the change up. Well, we'll go to the other guy, but I don't know. It just seems to me, and the times are so different because this would have been considered an in-house thing. Would have been only AJ's way to this. Say something to somebody in the media, and that would have been frowned upon. In the hallway with the guy with the microphone. But now with social media, he doesn't have to seek anybody out. He can just say, I'm kind of not so happy, right? And
yes,
we're in a different dynamic. I mean, and it's changing all the time. And I'm sure nobody on the team probably, I don't know, hell, some of those guys get along, don't get along. We'll never know. But I don't think they question so much a teammate speaking his voice. But if I'm a coach, which is another thing I thought about, how much the dynamics have changed. Where Tom Landry's and the Vince Lombardis and, the Mike Ditka, like Mike Ditka wouldn't play today, right? Grabbing guys by the face. You know what I'm saying? It was a different time. And recently on Dan Patrick, I saw a guy write a book about Walsh and Parcells and Gibbs. Walsh, Parcells, and Gibbs, the 80s, those guys. And then at the end of it, he wrote a book about their greatness, about the Super Bowls they won and all that. And he said, could any of them coach today? And he goes, yeah, one of those guys is universal. It's Joe Gibbs. And he said it's because of the man he was. He always got the best out of men. Remember when he came back 04 to 07, he was still, because all the schemes and all the things he did, his locker room character guy, as being a Skins fan, it was something that worked. I think that might be lost now, except I thought Dan Quinn created that last year. There was an energy. There seemed to be a brotherhood. The kids were all pulling from, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know if that's what's going on with the Eagles or not. Super Bowl win or not. I don't know. Maybe there's any other dissension. Maybe they're winning anyway.
We'll find out this weekend because they got to play Denver. So, you got Surtain, Moss, and these guys. So, you're going to need to complete passes. So,
relationships with leadership is very tough. Like I said, I retrained out of my previous Air Force career field when I was like 14 years in the Air Force. I was 32 or so when I got to my training, and they brought us in and they were giving us a briefing on how this new wave of airmen is different. Like the way they communicate is different.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago. So I think there's a big push for coaches that can understand that relationship to why AJ Brown and guys like that vent on social media.
Yeah,
I don't know. Bill Parcells, Mike Ditka, they're not understanding. Why are you sending out a tweet? They're probably like when
well, they wouldn't have allowed it. They would have cut.
Belichick called it face chat. He called it like, you guys are on Snap Face or Face
Yeah,
Chat.
remember that was a big deal when Antonio Brown was on Facebook or whatever it was.
He was on
when
Facebook
Tomlin was
Live.
giving the speech.
He was living it. Yeah, he was live. Yeah.
You know, that was the big thing. But it's
But
I
now
don't
that's
know,
a new wave. And
but hey, real quick.
Difficult.
So real quick, last thing I learned this weekend is that Ben Johnson halftime interviews are must-see TV.
Okay.
Like, did y'all see that, him and the reporter?
No.
Yeah,
she basically said, like, you don't, like, your team looks like your team isn't looking good. What are you gonna do about it? And I think he probably just, he's an intense guy. I think it's a little
he
showman.
misunderstood what she said. Like he told her, like, hey, we're not doing our identity right now. Like, we're not being ourselves or whatever. So she said, so you need to change what you're doing. But all he heard was, you need to change what you're doing. And so he I don't know.
Leaned in. He leaned in when he gave his response to that. And it was real stern. It's very Sirianni-like.
Yeah.
Like, just this bravado, this tough. I don't know where he's from.
These younger coaches.
It's just like he's trying to put like this Bill Parcells kind of demonstrative aura out there. It's like, yo, just be your coach. Like the way he talks about the practice, the way he talks about the players. Whereas Brian Daboll is very like jovial. Andy Reid's very jovial. Right. I think Ben Johnson, he's operating as if he somehow became the villain in between leaving Detroit and getting hired by Chicago. It's like, no, dog, you were the hot commodity. Everybody wanted to hire you. You picked a team that had a young quarterback and some good wide receivers, and you can run your plays. You have everything you need, but he's like making himself operate like the underdog, like how LeBron.
It's real Dabo like.
The first year he was. Remember LeBron when he was with the Heat, was that first year, and he made himself the villain. It was like, for what, dog? Just play basketball. You got the team you wanted. Just play ball.
Right.
And like it didn't work for LeBron. He had to like revert back, like, yo, why am I doing this? And I think Ben Johnson's doing that very same thing. It's like, I'm not saying it's inauthentic, but it's like it's unnecessarily aggressive for the position that he's in, because anybody in his position leave out of the end of the last season would have done the same thing. Would they would have taken a job where you have a young quarterback, no 1 overall pick, and 3 very dynamic wide receivers. Yeah, I'm taking that job. And 2 tight ends. Like, yeah, I'm taking that job.
I think that's a key thing you just touched on, though. All athletes, no question. There's no question about it. They're doing a sniff test on you when you coach them. It's one of the things I've learned in years of coaching. And if you're inauthentic, never going to work. It can't work for very long. If you're trying to have to scream and holler and seem to break things to like get people's attention, and that's inauthentic, it ain't going to work. It can only hold up for so much time. So, but I think one of the most beautiful love stories, and you guys have heard it, is the Parcells Taylor. Remember, Taylor was screaming. I mean, he would scream at Taylor, and Taylor was finally like, hey, you either cut me, whatever. And he goes, okay, you want to do it your way? And they love each other. Lawrence Taylor, Parcells. Mm-hmm. But when Parcells was on the hot seat, that's when LT was sniffing out maybe going to USFL. Trump is supposed to offer him money. He told the Giants, you let him go, I leave. So that's a player then coming back and stand up for a coach. He's a guy that's yelling at a player, but he wins the player's respect because they come to a mutual. And today, I know I'm using the old stories again, but today I still think any athlete's going to recognize, is that guy really in the foxhole with me? Or where are the lines drawn? Be yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're really a screamer and that's how you approach it, and you're authentic and you scream at everybody. Well, you've heard the stories too that Jimmy Johnson said he would go to Aikman or Emmett and go, I'm going to rip your ass today. Just be ready for it, because once the guys leave the practice field today, they're going to know if I'll yell at you like that, I'll yell at anybody. And Aikman said it used to be uncomfortable, but he would pick him out and just go crazy on him. And that was a wink and a nod. They both knew what was coming.
Yeah,
and then the players
are familiar, don't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. And Tom Brady and Tim Duncan are credited like that, where like, if I can talk to y'all like that, then I don't want to hear nobody else complain at all. So no, that's definitely a thing. But some of these coaches there's only like maybe 5 guys on the team that are even older than this coach. These.
No, you're right. That's an issue too. That is.
Because, you got your Sean McVays who have done great things and is well respected around the league. But then, you got your people like Zach Taylor that we were talking about earlier, who is a super young guy,
Had a
came
cup
from
of
under
coffee with Sean
McVay.
McVay, got a job.
And you see Jamar Chase up in his face last night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, that ain't never happened.
Kelsey did it to Andy Reid in the Super Bowl, and he did it last week.
Yeah, what was
yeah.
That's what when I first saw it, I'm like, wait a minute, are they replaying the Super? This is a new one, right? So what was it? What was the new one over? What was he upset about?
I think Andy Reid felt like Kelsey, because it looked like Andy Reid approached Kelsey about something. So I'm imagining it was probably like a third down route. He didn't run a route. Something. I think it was something where he was like challenging him, like, yo, you are the leader of this team. And then Kelsey was responding to that. But because the Super Bowl one, Kelsey was all over Andy Reid, and Andy Reid was
he like bumped him or pushed him or something.
Yeah, he bumped him and grabbed him because he took him off the field on third down. They were doing something on third down. I think the snap got bobbled. It was the San Francisco Super Bowl. But he was like, that's why you leave me on the field or something like that. And Andy was like, all right. But this time Andy was like,
this one, Andy, and
Andy was a little bit more, more animated. So
I'm kind of surprised too. I don't know. Maybe you've seen that famous one where Peyton Manning's going after Saturday, his best friend, because Saturday's running his mouth.
Stop calling plays. Yeah.
But you remember what the other offensive lineman did? He kind of jacked Manning up.
Yeah.
And it's like, go back to the quarterback. He's taking Manning and he's under his shoulder pad. Yeah. And he's kind of like, hey, dude, you're getting your space. Like, get the hell off of us, which is a standing up for his teammate thing. And then you could tell Manning was kind of like, okay. I don't think I want to screw with the offensive lineman anymore. But that's team
he said he
chemistry.
realized he was.
I realized
I was in the middle of all six of them.
If only somebody would have stood up for that idiot kicker.
Mike Vanderjack.
But that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm kind of surprised. I know Kelsey's a big name and he's a lot of things, I guess, but I'm kind of surprised with Reid and how old he is and how much he's respected. Not one player kind of like, hey, Travis, take it somewhere. Don't be rushing the coach. Although this time you're right. Reid was the aggressor more.
Yeah. Right. Because I think they know Reid because Andy probably the way they play second half football lets me know that Andy's digging in people's asses paws in the halftime. Like, I think Andy's really giving it to him, cutting guys for not being conditioned, things like that. I think Andy's a tough, old school Mike Holmgren, disciple kind of coach. And I think they know if you run up on him, he's going to run up on you. You're going to hash it out. And then the next series, you're going to throw your helmet on and go out there and play football.
Right.
But like Zach Taylor would probably needs a player or somebody to pull Jamar Chase off, because I don't know if he has that kind of cachet with the team. And we talk, these are just relationships. It's sports, it's money, it's athleticism, it's a lot of things going on. But ultimately, these are people's interpersonal relationships, and they get sour. No matter what the goal is, the objectives are, the paychecks are, these interpersonal relationships can sour, especially if you're as a wide receiver, you're already kind of known as a diva, but you do a very tough job. You're out there, you're running very hard, you're running in the space. All your production is predicated on multiple other people doing their job. Absolutely. And then you still have two people probably doubling you, trying to make sure you don't do your job. So I think it's a lot going on. So when those guys are like, I can beat this guy, I'm open, give me the ball. Like, I got him beat by 2 yards. Why you not give me the ball? It's like, I don't get those opportunities often to be open where I'm not making contested catches. And you're missing me when I'm wide open.
But he was definitely on one. So since we're talking about psychology and that kind of stuff, I'd like to try to get into the mind of James Franklin. Penn State, loses another big game, a game that they had no business losing. And, I was talking this morning to a couple of people, and I told them it doesn't matter if Penn State had Joe Montana walk through that door. It doesn't matter if Tom Brady would have walked through that door. You can't win when your coach is handcuffing you. Like you can just, like, the halftime score was 3-3. And it wasn't because Oregon was playing this all-world defense. It was because 3 yards in the cloud of dust, but it's 2025.
Todd McShay said something about Drew Aller. He's like, you look at him, he has all the measurables, but when he's on the field, the connection between him and his wide receivers, he's like, it's just not there. He's like, he can spin the ball, he can throw it, big body, but it's like when it comes to getting the ball to his wide receivers and making those throws where anticipatory throws and just getting the ball out to guys in space, he's like, it's just not clicking. When you look at him, you think he's a first round grade, but he's like, I'm not seeing it. And you also have a coach who his history of these big games and his record in these big games, I'm sure Mike has the exact statistics.
4-21.
Yeah.
It has to be something that the team feeds off of.
Yeah,
the information comes to them via social media because you play tight. And sometimes you just got to say, you know what? This first play action, let's just go deep. Let's rip the proverbial Band-Aid off and like just go for it. Let's get the jitters out. And like you talking about, me and Mike were talking about earlier, I don't know why the players don't wear white for the whiteout game. I remember thinking that a few years ago, I'm like, how come they're not wearing white? But I mean, I get it, traditional, the blue, but it's like you should get into the spirit of the stadium and use that to your advantage because you don't have that. The home field advantage that Penn State has is just, it's glaring. It's like what Michigan has, what LSU has, what Clemson has. Certain schools just have a different dynamic with their home field advantage, and they didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, this thing, I'm reading on that same thing, 4-21. There is something that happens in coaching. You create an energy, or you kill an energy, or you whatever you do. Anybody that's 4-21 against top 10 opponents, which it says is the third worst record by any single school in the AP poll era, that means you're doing something, whether consciously or subconsciously, you're pressing, and everybody in the building feels it. So, me giving advice on this, but if your coaching staff, if you kind of recognize that, I think, like you say, loosen it up. You got to do something different. But I think that's when you have to kind of look at your coaches and say, look, we're into tendencies. I'm pressing tendencies. Pull me out of this. If you see me, like you say, 3 yards, cloud of dust, we're getting consistently too consistent. Everybody sees it in the ballpark. Somebody's got to pull it out. It takes a lot, though, because as a coach, you want to be respected. You want a lot of things, but you either are or you're not. So that's what I said earlier about you got to be yourself. And I got to believe there's a bunch of kids in that locker room questioning. Now, it was a blowout weekend as far as upsets, I think it was the most, top 10 teams have been beaten in like 15, 20 years. It's pretty close to it.
A lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of teams. And I think it's probably showing to some degree too, that, I looked at a lot of analysis of that too. There are teams that just have tradition, and I think they get voted up higher than they really are in the preseason stuff. They get pumped up, then they're not what they said they were. And then some teams that are probably really proving that this year's roster's better have to languish back at 17, 18 for a while before they can break the top 10. Mm-hmm. So that continues to happen. But anyone that's got that kind of record for this long against top 10 opponents, and you are Penn State, there's a problem.
Right. We're not talking about Minnesota. You know what I mean? We're not talking about Wake Forest, So when you look at this, you can just watch him on the sideline, as the game is going on. Like, he looks like he's literally thinking to himself, "Oh, I wish halftime would come. I've really got to go to the bathroom." That's the look on his face, while the game is going on. And, so I was thinking about this because I'm a big fan of their offensive coordinator.
Right.
And before he got there, he was at Kansas, and he had the 7th ranked offense at one point, the 6th ranked offense. This is at Kansas we're talking about.
Right.
So I think that's the reason why Penn State came into the season so favored, even by me, because They had all the returning production,
Mhm.
from a team that went to the semifinals last year. So it seems like it would only make sense that they would take a step forward or, at least maintain where they were. So they got behind. They came back and, so I think that's a positive to take forward because out of these losses that they've had, it's usually a game that goes back and forth. It's real sluggish, 20-13-ish, and you just lose at the end because you didn't make a play. In this variety of the game, they made plays, they went down, they got back into it. So I think there's something to build upon. But when you watch that game from the beginning, and you didn't have the sound on or have any background, you would have thought Penn State was the road team with a young quarterback going into the
Right.
hostile environment.
Right.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah,
Oregon,
yeah,
when
the
they went to
coach sets that
overtime,
tone.
well, when they went to overtime, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Tennessee and Georgia. When they showed the kicker at the net, I was like, oh, he's going to miss that kick. Just as soon as I saw the kicker. So when they went to overtime, the interviewer or whoever went over to Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning's like laughing. He's all like bouncing around. Like people were like, "Is he on cocaine?" But to your point, Jack, that was the energy that he brought. Whereas
Right.
Penn State sideline was kind of ho hum.
Yeah, the energy coaches are perfect. We like my son's football team right now. Shout out to Northworth Greyhounds. 4-1, first home game Friday on the turf. We have a coach. He's a former player. He played like 10 years ago. And my son was telling me, like, in the summer practices, he was like, yeah, he runs everywhere. Like, what do you mean? He's like, if he has to go to the trainer and we're on the field, he runs to the trainer, he'll
Right.
run back. If he has to talk to another position group, he'll run there, he runs back. And he was like, he had me doing up downs every 5 yards. So we went from the goal line to goal line. He was like, I thought we were done. And he's like, so he started doing them backwards and was talking to me backwards. Like, all right, let's go. And he was like, so he's doing up downs with me. I'm in pads. He's not in pads, but he's like, 200-yard up downs. He's like, just me and him. And then we see him on the sideline. He's clapping, like something that happened, like even in a scrimmage, like somebody had an interception in the scrimmage, or like they missed a play in the scrimmage. He was like, yo, keep your head up. Like, listen, you were in a position, just get your hand up. And you could see it on the sideline, and the parents were noticing, like, who's this guy sweating through his shorts? But like he has that energy, and you could tell when guys come off the field after a touchdown, listen, the score is 7-0. Not 70-0. And he lets him know, like, yo, he hitting face masks. Pick your head up, get out there, execute. And he'll go over to the special team, like, listen, get a good return. All offense is going to do this. And it's like, you can see it, we can hear it, we can feel it. So there's a calm that comes from the sideline through his energy. And you can see the other coaches, because one game he wasn't there, and that calm wasn't there. It was a very tense game. The one game we lost was very tense. And the other game he wasn't there. We still won, but it was still very tense, and it shouldn't have been. But they regrouped at halftime. But the game we lost, he wasn't there, and you could tell is like if he was here, they would have struck back after that going down 7-0. So like, yeah, if that's the temperament that he's putting into his players and he's putting it out there, and then the media is obviously jumping all over it, and it's on social media, and the other kids from the other schools are sending it to him, and everyone's ears are wide open, they're getting all this information. Yeah, that can really discombobulate a team.
It's got to be so much more difficult now than it was in the past because everybody's a critic. I mean, look what we're, it's like, I said this on one of my shows today. Look what we're doing. We can all get behind the mic. I think it's great. It's free market. People can listen to what they want to. There's a lot of perspectives. Yeah, and there's a lot of perspectives out there. There's people behind mics all the time. Like, yeah, I really like what that guy has to say. But there was once a time the media was more under control. There was only, so many newspapers in town. There were only a few television stations. You weren't getting it from so many places. And it might have seemed kind of heavy. So you're under all this media scrutiny, and it's got to be really difficult. But again, I think the biggest thing is you got to be yourself. I mean, I've been around coaches that were completely quiet, you barely hear them. They almost were a whisper. They were good. Kids followed them because they got the energy. They were authentic. And then there's screamers, there's yellers. And it's not energy, it's more just disarray, and then that kids feed on that too. So yeah, you have to be yourself. But I've been around Tom House for a number of years. He's a pitching guy, but he's worked with 3/4 of the NFL quarterbacks at one time. And he used to tell me a lot of interesting stories about the personalities of the high end guys and the ones that struggled and things like that. But he's a sports psychologist, and he makes that point often when we talk about authenticity. But the biggest thing he taught me as a baseball coach is you got to get kids. Like we're in a program right now. We're in fall practice, getting ready for the spring. Number one thing to do at the end of the fall, and I'd say this into any sport, you sit the kid down and said, okay, Timmy, Jimmy, Billy, how do you get on the field in the spring? Whatever the sport, or how do you get on the field? Have them tell you. Then when they fail to do that and they're not playing, if they come to you and say, hey, what's the disconnect? What'd you tell me you were going to do? Then they're more likely. All the problem where I'm driving at is all the problems that athletes have is being totally in the dark of what the expectation is. That's really what causes most team dissension. You may in your head and the coaching staff's like, well, that guy should be starting. That guy. They don't know that. So the more direction they get on where they stand and what their role is, the better they're going to do. So I think what I'm saying about this situation, again, armchair quarterbacking it from a distance, it seems like in these bigger games, there's a different expectation. What the kids are feeling, the kids that are playing is, and if you're ever, and I'm not saying this coach is doing this at all, but I think sometimes the kids feel like, well, coach is coaching for his job, and that's a bad vibe too. Because then the kid's like,
Right.
hell, that's a bad vibe when the kid starts to feel like that guy, whether he feeds his family's on me and the rest of the game. They don't want to feel that, and that's not fair to them.
And I don't think he is. I don't think he is coaching for his job just yet.
Right.
But I remember me and Raph talked about this. This was probably a year and a half ago. He was at a press conference and one of the reporters asked him, hey, are you going to open up the offense and take deeper shots and all this kind of stuff? And he goes, we got a guy averaging 7 yards a carry. Like, I don't even feel comfortable. I don't know what you're asking me right now. And it was just like, what?
Ill prepared for that moment. It's like, just give a generic answer. Like, listen,
just say
we have athletes all over the place, and we're going to take what the defense gives us. Yeah.
Hey, who was the master? Belichick. Man, when people used to laugh about Belichick, I said, that's the smartest dude I've ever seen. He doesn't say anything. It's on to what was the town? Was it on to Cleveland?
On to Cincinnati, yeah.
On to Cincinnati, right. But you know what? People made fun of it, but it became sort of a joke. But the bottom line was he never gave up any information, and he never really changed the mood.
Well, speaking of Belichick,
control the narrative. Media 101, crisis media 101. Control the narrative, because if you allow people, rest in peace to the Green, let them off the hook. So that just becomes the thing that they ride with for the rest of the year.
Speaking of Belichick, they do have Clemson coming in. They do have Clemson coming in this weekend, so that should be pretty interesting. But so down in Athens, Kalen DeBoer, who started the season getting all the arrows thrown at him after a loss in Tallahassee.
Ooh, they were ready to help him pack his house.
Now he beats Kirby Smart for the second straight year, and that's not even the most impressive part to me. The most impressive part is he beat Kirby Smart in a game where his team didn't even score in the second half.
Right.
It might be a Franklin thing. Kirby Smart might. I imagine that every coach, team, nemesis, rivalry has that. We talk about it with Kirk Cousins in primetime games. It's like all the moments of your career aren't too big. Like, he's obviously an accomplished head coach, but this Alabama moment tends to get to him.
1-7 now against Alabama.
Well, you really brought up one of my favorite subjects was my frustration during the Kirk Cousins years. And I had so many friends like, oh my gosh, though, the numbers he puts up like a pinball machine. I go, yeah, but I remember the year, we played, was it 2016? We played the Giants. They'd already blown the game against the Panthers. And then they caught a second chance to make the playoffs. And I told a friend, I said, he's going to throw 2 picks tonight. Oh, no, he's going to be really, I was like, no, because everything's on the line. He's going to choke. And sweet guy. It's the way I used to define it all the time. Marry your daughter, babysit your kids, mow your lawn. He's your guy. But
absolutely,
don't let him quarterback your team when it matters. I mean, that was the bottom line.
You need to ride to the airport. He's got you. You got 4 people in your group.
Yeah,
he'll bring the van. Absolutely,
And all those
5:30 in the
years,
morning, he'll be there.
and all those years they kept doing franchise tag. There was a radio guy I listened to in the city and in DC, and he was just all the time railing. They got to go big contract with him. I'm like, no, there's a reason they're not going. Now, it was the worst front office in the history of professional sports, of course. The people we're talking about. But while that was going on, I kept saying, I know why they're not giving him a big contract. Then, Minnesota bid on that. And what's funny? The first time he blew a game to not make the playoffs, I went on YouTube and was like, let me find some Minnesota fans. And there's two guys doing what three of us are doing. Man, they are pissed. We paid how much for this guy, And then he comes out in the podium and he goes, hey, I just want to tell everybody I love him. And we're going to have a great off season and and I was like, that ain't going to play well. And it didn't. And it did, but that's it. He's a great guy.
He kept getting guaranteed contracts.
Yeah.
He got the two from Washington, which I think were like 30, high 30s.
I think one of them was 30. The first one I think was 32, and then
that sounds right. That sounds
38.
Right.
Yeah, because he got the percentage of the top 5 guys, and then the top 3 guys because he did it 2 years in a row. Then he got $84 million for 3 years from Minnesota. Then he got another one from Minnesota, and then he got the 180 with 100 of that guarantee from Atlanta. So I think his career earnings are somewhere around Tom Brady's. As far as
they probably are, because Brady went all those years not making money, not relative to
dollars.
Not relative to his talent, right?
So Kirk Cousins' agents going to the Hall of Fame, but
got to.
Kirby Smart he just has they call it the yips in some I think in golf they call it
baseball
you just have it.
Yeah.
You just have a thing, you got to change something. Sometimes it's a matter of going to what that's most effective, because this Bama team is just a really, really good football team.
Well, yeah,
I don't think they're dominant in any position. I don't think you would take it. I don't think you walk into a game against Bama in the Tuscaloosa and say we are at a huge deficit in this position group. If you're another upper echelon SEC school, you feel like you're a coin toss, 50-50 either way with most of these position groups.
Georgia is supposed to be the flag bearer now. Nick Saban's gone. Ding dong, the king is dead. This is supposed to be Georgia's time now. And not saying that it isn't. I mean, he's won 2 national titles, Kirby Smart. So this isn't a James Franklin situation where he can't beat the mega teams, the top 10 teams. He just can't beat that one team for whatever reason. And we've seen that over the years. I remember as a big Kobe Bryant fan, there was about 6 or 7 seasons in a row where they lost to the Bobcats. They weren't even the Hornets yet. They lost to the Bobcats every single year for some reason. But, I think in this game, what we saw is a lot of the things that I brought up when we were talking about Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the secondary. I'm concerned about the offensive line. And those are 2 things that you're not supposed to be able to say about a Georgia team. But this may be where part of that may be the transfer portal.
Yes.
Where some of these teams like a Missouri, an Ole Miss, they're getting players that Georgia would have had locked down in their sophomore year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the part of the parity that I know people hear the money and they talk about the transfer portal, but if, say, Nico Maileva was a really good quarterback, say he was actually playing well. I know he's struggling at UCLA, but say he transferred to Georgia, leaving Tennessee would have gone to Georgia. Now you have a quarterback that obviously he needs some horses, but he can make all those throws you need. He can't make them at UCLA because those guys aren't as dynamic, athletically. But him in Georgia, I think that happens. Georgia didn't have that. They lost Carson Beck. He went down to Miami, and they brought in a guy who was just there. Gunnar Stockton, good quarterback, but is he ultra dynamic? Is he gonna be your force multiplier in the event that, hey, this is a back and forth game? We can put it on this guy. The way Dylan Gabriel was for Oregon last year. He made every timely throw. He made the third down throws. He was very accurate. He was poised. He had the experience. When the season started last year, he was already at 50 games. I think they played 13, 14 games. So he's already at 48, 49 games. He's had some struggles, some ups and downs. So he was able to make the plays. This guy Gunnar is just starting out. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes I think coaches can say, I think we're good to go what we got here, and they don't swing for the fence. Maybe you go and get just basically steal and make one of your position groups way more dynamic than all the teams around you because you're pretty much even everywhere else. Like, okay, how do I create a scenario where without a doubt my offensive line is the best in the SEC, or without a doubt I have the best skill position guys in the SEC, like something like that. And I think they're kind of holding firm because they are a stacked franchise. They are like a good, solid program, booster money, Nike money, TV time, SEC money. But it's like every once in a while you might have to say, you know what? I need to get this RG3 type of player in here just to make sure I have a leg up when it comes to this SEC play.
Okay. I can see that. So last thing before we get out of here, speaking of college football real quick, I was going to ask you all, is there anybody that you feel has separated themselves? Like, as we come into the season, we got these rankings, these numbers by people's names that people argue about every week, even though the AP does not select who's going to make the playoff or anything like that. Is there anybody that's standing out at this moment that looks like that team is going to be there at the end of the season?
I like the surprise teams. I think Indiana might make a solid run. I think I'm gonna jump on that bandwagon, kind of early. I just feel like somebody, like it just feels some of these teams are gonna watch each other out. The LSU's, Ole Miss, one of these SEC schools is gonna slip up to Arkansas or slip up to Mississippi State and just kind of lose ground. I think Texas has a game against Florida this weekend.
They do.
That could be one of those games. Like, you got a 1-3 Florida, you got a top 10 ranked Texas. We don't know if Arch Manning is as good as advertised. So maybe Florida steals that away and like knocks them out of, just kind of knocks Texas out of that contention, because it's like, all right, yeah, you might end the season with 2 losses, but one of them was to a 1-3 Florida that was struggling, something like that. So I just feel like Indiana probably has I think they have the stability there. I think, like I said, I like the moxie of the coach. So I'm going to jump on the Indiana back. I'm still riding with Penn State. I just hope James Franklin can figure it out. Maybe get Michael Key, Key and Peele out there to help him coach games or something. I know he's a Penn State guy. Just go out there and coach for me. I'm going to sit in the stands. But, yeah, so Indiana. I like Indiana out of the Big Ten to be the, I guess it's the quarter season surprise.
Well, we'll find out about them real quick because they got to go to Oregon next week. So not this weekend, but next weekend, they got to go to Oregon. As for Penn State, it comes down. I said it preseason, right? November 1st, they're going to the Horseshoe to play the Buckeyes. Now, they lost to Oregon already. You know how you make it better? You beat Ohio State.
Ohio State, yeah.
And then they got Indiana the week after that coming in. So, back to back.
Yeah, it's all tough. It's all tough.
Yeah, I'm looking at the movement here in the top 25, and my man, you're right. Indiana's they jumped all the way to 8, so seems like they're on the move, 5-0. But you're right.
Hey, don't give him the credit. I gave him that preseason.
Okay, yeah.
Because I had South Carolina and Penn State in the national championship game, and that's it's not shaping up well right now. I also had Florida in the playoff too. So listen, you win some, you lose some. You miss 1,000% of shots you don't take.
So what about Miami? Because I got so much history of liking them when they were the naughty boys that they were in the 80s through the early 2000s. So how good are they?
Oh, they're damn good.
Yeah,
they're damn good.
It kind of brings back a reminisce, about the past. Because I was talking to some kids on the baseball team the other day, and I was like, you guys just don't know. I said they went from Ed Reed to Sean Taylor. Well, they were together one year, but I'm like
Ray Lewis to Jonathan Vilma,
and Ray Lewis was there, right? Yeah, and then right,
they had what? It was Edrin James, Clinton Portis, and Frank Gore all on the same roster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy the people.
One year they They would have gone 8-4 if the offense didn't score a touchdown.
Yes.
Like they would have their season would have ended 8-4 if the offense didn't score at all. I'm like, how is that possible? That's how. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
I
great.
look. Miami is damn good. They got Carson Beck in there, like you mentioned. They're coming down to Tallahassee this weekend, and I already let my feelings known on that. The bubble guts movement is going on, and like we already coming off this loss to Virginia, so hopefully we can get up off the ground and give Miami a battle. But no, Miami definitely impressed me in their earlier game against Notre Dame. The way that they were able to push Notre Dame around, showed me that this is a different Miami animal that we're dealing with this year. Because I didn't have high expectations for them, maybe 9 wins, but I didn't think of them as a national title contender. They absolutely are.
Now, are they back to like pretty much cleaning house in the state of Florida? Is that where they're getting all the kids from?
Yet.
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. The Gators are actually, for all their troubles, the Gators are actually recruiting well. I mean, their quarterback, DJ Lagway, was the number 1 quarterback in his class.
Right.
Just in front of Ohio State's quarterback, Julian Sayin. But, so Florida's still getting the talent, but it just seems like the coaching might be off.
Yeah, it just doesn't lock in, doesn't mesh. But that could be a byproduct of keeping the wrong group of coaches around too long. But with college, you have such a turnover with the players. I guess you figure this guy's bringing in more players, and we'll get better and we'll get a groove. But there's high school guys right now who probably were looking at their commitment, especially if you have an offer from Florida. More than likely, you have an offer from Florida State, Georgia, another top Florida school,
Bama,
Florida Atlantic, Bama. So if you have an offer right now as a junior or senior from one of these schools, like from Florida, you probably have them from 3 or 4 of these other top schools. You go 1-4 after this weekend, you might lose a handful of those guys, or you might get some more guys they're going to need more playmakers. Some of these guys might transfer out. I might be able to come right in as a freshman and play. So it's just all a matter of the mindset. But I think just the location alone, you should be able to just kind of keep the factory going.
That's
just location alone.
That's a great question. I'd like to see if that could be measured on some kind of test of psychology. Which kid do you want more? The one that wants to be on the national championship level team, or the one that's looking at rosters saying, I could go there and play immediately? I mean, because that's 2 different mindsets.
Yeah.
Really.
One time in a car that a coach came to the school, wanted to meet with him and a few players, and he looked up their record, and their record last year was 2-10. He was like, oh, they need playmakers. He's like, I can already tell. And he was like, it wasn't oh, they suck. He was like, they need playmakers. He's like, okay, I like that. And he was like, he made a mental note, oh, this school, this was their record. They're looking for because we have a group of juniors. He was like, they're looking for a group so they can bring in bring in a culture. He was like, I like that. I like that option, because it's you need people to make that want to play football. And he was like, I'll make note of that. So I was like, I looked at him when he said it. I was like, oh,
well, I think college
because I had no idea really what he wanted to do.
I think college football might run into a similar problem that the NFL ran into, because, at one point it was grab anybody off of Belichick's staff and let's make them a head coach. Right now, now it's hey, you exchange Christmas cards with Sean McVay, come over here.
So y'all had coffee? Here's a 5-year contract.
Yeah, so I think college is going to run into that thing where it's well, Nick Saban's gone, but the influence is still here. Because Billy Napier, the Florida coach, was one of those Nick Saban guys. And, Kirby Smart he's been successful. So I think you're going to see people try to reinvent the wheel with Saban's guys and then realize that, oh, that's not Saban.
Yeah, well, and that's something I wonder. This is a strange story, but I'll tell you. I worked a baseball camp once, and there was a young lady there that goes to Alabama. And she was the the head trainer at this baseball camp. She was in training. She was from that area where the college was, where I was at the camp, and she was going to Alabama. So I was like, something I've noticed is, and it was with some of the players that were playing for our team in Washington. Man, on the interviews and all, they always seem to be top notch. And she said, "Oh, Saban is like doing media training. They dress up for everything they do. They walk on the correct side of the hallway." I mean, she was like, "I have not dealt with the bad player at Alabama." And this was 10 years ago. I'll never forget. She was like, "I have not worked with the guy there." She was, because I said, "Oh, so you work with football?" "Oh, yeah." "You see Saban?" She goes, "He never has much to say." She was kind of like, he's cordial enough, but he's always in his mind. He's focused. I'm like, "Well, what's the vibe?" And she said, "It's totally professional. Like nothing else I've ever, there's no way to measure how perfect Alabama." And she goes, "And he does not let knuckleheads on this team. If they're screw ups, they're gone immediately. Like everybody's a gentleman. Everybody does what they're supposed to." And I was like, I was really impressed by that. Well, it kind of shows in his record, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, it kind of showed. She said he's a no nonsense guy.
Well, there would be times where, they might win a game, 58-7, and they go into
He's
the press
ripping that
conference.
ass.
Yeah, he's talking about we need to tackle better.
Yeah.
I saw a couple
Missed the
assignments
block on the
that we missed. And you're just like, huh?
Yeah, the media training thing, that was something I heard this year. I believe it was either Devontae Smith or Jalen Milroe. But yeah, he has them learn, like they practice how to approach the podium.
Interview for jobs.
Interview for jobs.
Yep.
If you see Devontae Smith coming to the game, he's always in a suit. Jalen Milroe, poised at the podium. Jalen Hurts, obviously, the way he mastered the podium is it's incredible. So yeah, it's a different kind of program. But when you're a one of one or one of five kind of coach, there's not many coaches like him.
Well, the times have changed too. The times have changed. And that's something he said on the way out too, was, with the NIL and everything going a different direction, and he'd had his years, but he's old school. I mean, he grew up with the guys that did it a different way. And he was still that guy, still doing it the old way. And it was working. So now, let's face it, that everything kind of is circular. It could circle back. We might go through a time when, the guys are a little bit tougher on the kids. The kids haven't changed. I can tell you, when you coach kids haven't changed. The dynamics around them, how their parents react to things, with the social media and all that. But I definitely see a difference in kids over the last 5 years. I think more and more kids are starting to get kind of tough again. Honestly, it's a different environment. But I do ride them all the time about how much things have changed. And I'm like, you guys grew up in air conditioning with video games and the rest. And it's true. Yeah. I try to explain to them, that the guys that came out of the Deep South, the Deion's playing two sports and the Bo Jacksons and all, I'm like, look, these guys grew up in the Deep South. They didn't have air conditioning. What they do? They ran around outside all day, right? So they played they played multiple sports. They played year round. They played sports. And these kids are much more indoor kids. It's a different environment. That's across the board. But there's, somebody's still going to fill out the uniform. Somebody's still going to play. And they're still doing it pretty well in the Deep South. Still play football pretty well down there.
Yeah, it's a top-notch programs coming out. So real quick with the coaches and players and parents and that dynamic, I saw something today Bo Jackson was talking about. It was like, you don't find too many two-sport athletes at a high level because there's guys who are so big, strong, and fast at one sport that you won't be able to match. He's like, if you try to master two sports, he's like, you can be riding the bench in two sports. Do you suggest that players stick to one sport? And if you do, what age should they stick to the one sport? Or do you prescribe to the notion of play as many sports as you enjoy, mainly through high school? That's my thing. I think high school, you should have a nuclear dynamic experience from high school, from birth through 18. I think you should go to preschool, kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to play in the dirt and get scratches and scrapes and scars and ride your bike.
Yep.
And then you should be able to play sports, win, lose. You don't need a trophy or a ribbon. Just play, get your hoodie at the end of the year, get your participation, certificate. You get your pictures. Your family gets to come see you play. It doesn't need to result in a trophy. Then you play the next sport. You're just physical. You win, you lose. You go to high school, you get your driver's license, you get a job, you graduate, go to prom. Like all these things, I think all these things are vitally important. And I just feel like a lot of these top recruits, like Quinn Ewers, he passed up on his prom just to focus on going to Ohio State. I'm like, you're a Texas quarterback. Why'd you leave Texas early to go to Ohio State to be behind Justin Fields and CJ Stroud? Like,
well,
why?
I can tell you, I've got some views on this, and I read something within the last 5 years. Kids that play one sport, or I'll put it this way: kids that play multiple sports are 39% less likely to be injured if they played multiple sports. But I've worked with some kids really, really high end in baseball, and one of them I can think of particularly was a first round draft choice. He was a can't miss Division I quarterback, but he gave up football his sophomore year in high school because if I blow my knee out, I'll never get that first round money. And the money was kind of becoming, pretty important. He went on to play in the big leagues. This guy played in high school over 20 years ago. But that's what's happening. Kids are seeing, and now with the NIL and all other opportunities for lots of money and, big name notoriety and the like, they're not playing multiple sports because there's always, I need to either devote all my time to the one specialized sport or I can't get hurt in the other sport. I would never, ever in his presence or anywhere else ever disagree with Bo Jackson. But
yeah,
I think what's been lost is he is of that time where growing up, the expectation was anyone can run like you, Bo, you're going to run on the track team. Anyone can hit a baseball 600 feet, you're going to play baseball. And you're definitely going to carry the rock for some football. This is what you did. And the famous story is Alabama sat down with him and said, Auburn hasn't beaten us in so many years. That kind of goes with what we were talking earlier. And he said, well, I knew right then I was going to go to Auburn because I wanted to go to Auburn to beat Alabama because they told me. Right. So that kind of turned him off that they said, Auburn hasn't beat. I know Auburn's been talking to you. Well, they haven't beaten us. Okay, then I'm going to go to Auburn and beat you. So anyway, I see lots of kids on the baseball field. Now, I'll tell you kind of a horror story that turned out good. When I was coaching a select travel team years ago, White Sox, was working with a White Sox scout, had this kid in the outfield. I love this kid. 6'3", 210, 215, hit from the left side, could run, right-handed thrower. And I was talking to him his senior year in high school. I'm like, you can play professional baseball. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Some scouts have talked to me, but I got to play college football. You really want? Yes, sir. I'm going to play college. So he went to play D1 linebacker. He bulks up to like 235 his freshman year, hurts his knee bad. So now he's got a knee injury. So he goes out with this major university baseball team, plays a year. Coaches take him aside. We love you to death. You're not really in the mix because of our talent pool. So he goes to a smaller school, gets drafted, and plays pro baseball. So I respected that. Where I'm getting at, he could have gone the route directly into pro baseball or stayed in college to get drafted and avoided football. But it was a life experience he needed to figure out for himself. So he gets injured doing it. But, if somebody said, well, should he have avoided football? Hell no, I shouldn't have avoided football. He wanted to play on Saturdays and he wanted to play. It was a Division I school, ACC, and he went and did it. He just got injured. So he gave up football, went back to baseball. But that's a lot of what's going on. But generally, and look back to, you think about Elway spent a summer with the Yankees and hit well over 300 in New York Penn League and stole a bunch of bases. And people didn't realize he hit with power. Jay Schrader, third overall pick in the MLB draft, washes out. Bobby Brister was a professional player.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady was drafted as a catcher. And the Expos, now the Nationals, thought he was a huge prospect as a left-hand hitting catcher. That used to be dime a dozen. Everybody that got drafted in the NFL at quarterback had been drafted as a pitcher. They'd all been drafted. And, Mahomes, another one's dad pitched in the big leagues, and he got drafted. So,
Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Winston threw 94 miles an hour. I remember when Russell Wilson actually played with the Rockies. A friend of mine was the one that signed him at a Richmond. Well, he was at NC State at the time that he got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And, he went and did the whole play. He drafted at a high school, went and played pro ball while he was playing college football. Matter of fact, I think the story was that's why he left NC State. They were like, make a choice, stop playing baseball. They didn't want him.
Yeah, and he went to Wisconsin.
So that's when he went to Wisconsin because they wouldn't let him play in the summers, even though under the NCAA rules he could. But yes, it's getting so specialized that I think we've all played some sports, and whether you played football, baseball, or whatever, if you spent time running in the gym in the wintertime, that's what we did. If we could find a gym to get into, we ran around and played basketball. We may not have had an NBA future, but it made us a better athlete. Hell, if we played racquetball or tennis, anything that kept us active made us better. But there's all kinds of movements involved with the particular sports that builds your overall ability to do the other sports.
Right.
That's the bottom line. So I'm all for it. But now I think that could Bo do it again? People forget too, Brian Jordan was an all-pro safety with your Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With Dion.
And he played,
and then he played in the All-Star game.
For the Braves.
Yeah, he played in the All-Star game. So he made the All-Star team and all-pro. He made the Pro Bowl. So people forget that. He's a New York guy, but he went to University of Richmond, but he's from upstate New York. It was kind of DJ Dozier, grew up in Virginia Beach, played running back at Penn State. He got to AAA. He might have got a cup of coffee in the big leagues too. So it used to be pretty common, especially between baseball and football. But I saw Danny Ainge play in Syracuse in AAA the summer before he went coast to coast against Notre Dame in the Final Four. I saw him playing in AAA, and he got a little bit of time in the big leagues, and he was a big prospect in baseball. I wish we could go back to those times and guys played multiple sports, because I don't think they're as good at athletes because they don't. And I know that's the argument I'm having with the kids all the time. I think Bo Jackson was just an incredible freak of nature, beautiful athlete that just had it all. Speed, size, strength, ungodly speed. I mean, he had the speed, but he could hit a baseball 6 miles. I mean, he could do it. And, and the famous when he threw out Harold Reynolds from the wall.
Yeah.
So you make a 340-foot throw all the way to the plate and throw a guy out that could run like Harold Reynolds. Yeah,
flat-footed off the bounce.
The beautiful thing about that play though is Bob Boone kind of started walking. They all kind of started deking him like, well, the game's over because that run ends the game. And I think Boone recognized, oh hell, there's going to be a play here. So the story was when Harold Reynolds, because Darnell Coles was the guy on deck, and he's like, get down, like slide. And he's coming around third. He's like, wait, slide what? What are you talking about? So he goes and slide, quick tag, Bob Boone tags him. Aaron Boone's dad tags him. And then he said he popped up like, who threw that? And he goes, Jackson. He goes, I know that, but who cut it? And he goes, no, Jackson threw it. I know, but who cut it? And he goes, nobody cut it. What are you saying? He kept saying like, no, who threw it? Who was it cut? Who was it cut? He goes, nobody. Well, I know both threw it, but yeah. And he threw it. He threw it from the wall. And a poor man's radar gun, if you can throw a baseball 300 feet, it equates to to 90 miles an hour. So if you're 300 plus, and I'll give you another one too, that never fails. However fast a guy can throw a football is how many yards he can throw it. I've seen it. Yeah. So an average NFL arm was considered an average depth for the longest throw is 58 yards. When guys get into 65 plus, that's more elite. But if you put the gun on it, it'll be if they throw a pass 65 yards on the gun, it'll be 65 miles an hour.
Mahomes pre-draft, he went to like ESPN and they had or NFL Network, and it wasn't accurate. But he threw as hard as he could. I think it was like 65 miles an hour with a football.
Oh, I think he'd be much great.
His first preseason game, I watched him throw a pass past three, like Tyreek Hill's run like a deep over route. Yeah. And he rolled and he threw this ball. And I'm like, granted, it was a preseason game, but it was like, how did you beat three guys? I know Tyreek Hill's fast, but he threw it. Yeah, he threw it like 65 or 70 yards in the air. It's pretty crazy.
Well, do you know what the combine record is, though? They used to record the longest, however far you could throw the ball. You know who has the record?
Isn't that Joe Milton?
Jeff George.
That makes sense.
He threw it 89. His record throw. Now, I've heard stories of Elway throwing at 85, which I believe. I mean, Elway could throw it out of the stadium, but George, for all that arm strength, another guy spent some time with you guys in Atlanta. So he spent time with everybody, but he did have a huge arm. He could. Yeah, throw.
He did. He's the first guy that I remember. Team a lot,
but he threw it hard.
He's the first guy that I remember as a kid, people talking about arm strength. He was like the first dude that I can recollect people going, he will throw the ball
with his arm strength.
He was the first one, even before Elway.
I remember Favre. Favre was the first.
Favre had a big arm.
That was like Favre, but like Green Bay was on TV a lot. I mean, I guess because they're like one of the original teams. So
yeah, they had my guy, the Magic Man, Don Mikowski.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I was in Germany in the early 90s. My dad was in the army, and I remember Green Bay would be on TV. Granted, it'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning. My dad waking me up so we could watch football. But yeah, I remember seeing a lot of Green Bay games. And that's why I fell in love with the Falcons, because Dion came out of the tunnel high step, and I'm like, yo, who is this dude?
Right.
Like, who is this guy wearing 21, flashy, high stepping? So like, I've been a fan ever since then. But yeah, the multiple sport athlete conversation, the transfer portal, to me, just as a parent, like I have 3 sons. My daughter is only 6. She was amazed that I used to drink out of the water hose outside. So like the whole, like, just, she's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, we just wouldn't go back in the house. We drink outside." So she's like, "Ugh." But they have 3 sons. My oldest son he's the same thing. He did track. Then the football coach is like, "Oh, you're a senior?" He's like, "No, I'm a freshman." It's like, "Cool, you're gonna come out for football." Then the football coach like, "Yeah, I'm also the wrestling coach. So you're gonna wrestle." So he did football, track, football, wrestling, track, football, wrestling, track, football, wrestling until he graduated. My youngest son's been playing lacrosse, basketball, football, loves football, likes basketball. I love seeing him play lacrosse. He's like, I like it. But like you said, they say it works on the skills,
Yeah.
it works on the camaraderie, it works on the social aspect of it. I just like everything that it keeps him busy. So when he wants to play on his computer, I know for a fact that like you just spent the last 10 hours between school and after school practice playing these varsity sports, earning your varsity letters. Like I have his captain award up there. He just got this week. So it's like, I enjoy that he enjoys what he's doing, and he's prepared, and he prepares himself, and he has everything ready. And it's not about like, oh, I want you to win a state championship, so I need you to transfer to this school. No, just play. Just play hard with your friends that you played with since you were 6 years old. Like you guys were playing together, you didn't have teeth in the front.
So you bring up lacrosse, greatest lacrosse player of all time.
Jim Brown.
God, yes. Look, I got a buddy of mine, 6'4", that played at Syracuse in basketball. He was a bench guy. He was on the 87 team. So he was there when Smart hit the shot to knock them out of the national championship. But he said Brown would come by every year. And my friend's 6'4", and he would come and talk to the basketball team. Jim Boeheim would bring him in. And I said, what was that like? And he said, he's the largest figure in my mind I've ever seen. It's like you're in the room, you're the only person. Like I met him once at an autograph show, and he was just like that. He was a sweetheart. Jim Brown was a really nice man. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's Jim Brown, So my buddy who's 6'4", who grew up in Ithaca, went to Syracuse, his uncle played at Cornell, played lacrosse. And he said his uncle was 6'4". And he told me one time, he goes, the most frightened I've ever been anywhere in my life was on the field with Jim Brown. Because he said, he goes, my uncle played against Jim Brown when he was at Cornell against Syracuse. And I'm like, I bet that was a sight. And he goes, dude, my uncle just told nightmarish stories about being on the field with Jim Brown. And I was like, I can imagine. Yeah, but he picked that up as a kid and played. And yeah, he's kind of recognized in NCAA history as the great. And a lot of people don't know that. That's a great pull, right? And I think didn't Thorpe played as well? Jim Thorpe, he played all those different things.
Yes.
I think
because it's a Native American.
He had Native American. Yeah, I think Jim Thorpe was also like
I think Thorpe was a pretty big name on lacrosse as well. But yeah, the Jim Brown. But yeah, when I met him at the autograph show, I saw him. He was really an impressive man. You're thinking of who that is and what he, and you talk. That's another thing. You talk to kids today, like, well, he was like what 5'6" and 100. I was like, no, dude, he was 6'2", 230. And they're like, he was that big, and I'm like, he
was Derrick Henry. How about that?
Well, I mean, certainly in his time, there weren't a lot of people trying to stop him. That were the athlete he had. And that kind of gets into the same old argument. And I was doing a show the other day, and some guys put in there like, well, when you bring out the elite guys from the time of the 80s and 90s, it was just fewer of them. And I'm like, as much as I think LT was the best, I remember Andre Tippett, and I remember all those all those linebackers with the Saints, Swilling and Jackson. There were some dudes in the league then that weren't just, and then Derek Thomas following on the back end of that. But Reggie Whites and people like that, I'm not so sure I've ever really seen Reggie White since Reggie White. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but when Bruce Smith was special, and there were some pretty special players, but it was different body types. I do think
it felt like they wanted to be and look bigger shoulder pads,
shoulder pads,
neck rolls. Like it just they
weren't as heavy.
It seemed like the old 80s and 90s players wanted to have like this stature, whereas now, like when I see Michael Parsons, because they go to a lot of basketball games.
Yes,
and I see him standing next to an NBA player. I'm like, he doesn't look that much bigger.
Right.
I saw, like, I was watching the video today, Aiden Hutchinson. I guess he's like 6'5", 265, but it's like you look at him, it's like he doesn't
seem
look
like it.
But granted, he's standing by himself. But even with that, is like I saw Tutu Atwell, who caught the pass for the Rams. I'm like,
he looked like
he can't
he's
be more than 175. Yeah, he can't be more than
Yeah.
175. So it's just different to see, you know, like I met Charles Haley. I seen him one time.
Wow.
And he was looking at you with at Busch Gardens. I'm like, I'm really into sports. And my cousin's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, yo, this is Charles Haley. Like, yep, this is like the greatest defensive end in football right now.
My dad grew up in the middle of nowhere.
He was like, you guys want an autograph or something? I was like, you know what? Leave this guy alone. We go about my business.
My dad grew up in Gladys, Virginia, in Campbell County, about 20 miles from Lynchburg. It's in the middle of tobacco fields. It's in the middle of nowhere. That's where Charles Haley's from. Charles Haley's from the same town my dad's from. And, you know,
I was in Williamsburg, Virginia at Busch Gardens when I seen him. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a pretty big guy. Yeah.
Sitting down, he just was like, he had this big old head.
Yes. He's an impressive
he looked larger than life, but
yeah, he was a big guy. And, you know, Michael and I, we talked about this before. Still the best athlete I ever saw live was Sean Taylor. And, you know, I saw him the last game he played. And I tell you, another guy that was really impressive for his size to be a defensive back was Champ Bailey. Did you guys ever see Champ Bailey live? That was
I've never seen. I just remember him putting he wore that shoulder brace and he wore it for the rest of his career. It's like, I don't know how bad his shoulder hurts right now, but like I just remember seeing that and just thinking, like, when I see guys on the sideline, I said it like for the Ravens, it's like for a guy to be walking around on the sideline but not be able to go in the NFL, considering like what guys actually do to go, they must be really hurt.
They must be really hurt. Yeah.
They must be really hurt. Cause like I see N'Kobe Dean's walking around on the Philly sideline, Carl Van Noy is walking around. It's like, I know they want to go, but it's like the fact that they can't brace it up or shoot it up, it must be really bad. But like I was thinking about Champ Bailey, just like, oh, he hit his shoulder because he was a tackling corner. Like he was
he was huge.
Yeah, he was always coming down the hill. So it was like, let me just put this brace on.
Yeah, him and Charles Woodson are my guys.
Yeah, and you know, in Champ at Combine, because I saw Dion, Darrell Green, and Champ on the same team, 2000 Redskins. They were all together. And when I watched them warming up, the thing that stood up was Champ Bailey was twice as big as them. And at the Combine, he ran a 4.29.
He did.
He ran a sub 4.3. So he's out there running around kind of looking like Dion. Now, Dion's mailing it in. He's stealing Snyder's money, basically. Good for him. But
I didn't know because Xavier Worthy, ran that 4.2 last year. Before 1. Right? Yeah. I didn't know that Tyquan Thornton ran a 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on the same
team.
The
other wide receiver?
Yeah, with Patrick Mahomes. That's crazy.
He was getting open a lot. I thought it just was bad coverage, but then you look at it and it's like, but once again, he's about a half a sandwich away from 185 pounds. So like he's not a very big guy. He's like 6'2".
Well, I was reading about him. He grew up in Miami. And so he's fast. And then he ended up going to college at Baylor. So, from Florida to Texas, you know what I mean? So he definitely got the speed.
Well, when you look, I'd just throw this out there, and I'd probably be somewhat wrong, but I would think 75% of the defensive backs in the NFL are from the South.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's
about right.
There's a crazy percentage of how many
Florida, Texas.
I heard a stat once that
Louisiana,
like every NFL team has like multiple players from like Broward County and Dade County. On each team. Like every team has multiple guys just from those couple of counties in and around Miami on their team that are impact players on their team.
Right. That's right.
And Miami's still going.
And Miami can't win the national championship. It blows my mind. And that's that's the first thing I thought of when I heard that. I was like, then why is Miami not stacked?
But that's what they did.
They are coaching.
But remember, starting in the 80s, and then, was it Schmellenberger was the first one?
Schellenberger, yeah.
Schellenberger, right. Then followed by Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy
He got
Johnson,
those
Dennis
guys
Erickson.
to stay. He got those guys in Miami and South Florida to come there and play.
Yeah.
And that's when they became what they became.
Dennis Erickson took over, and
yeah. And they kept the guys in South Florida in South Florida.
Actually, Erickson might have been before Jimmy Johnson.
No,
I can't remember.
No,
I thought he followed because Johnson
He may
go
have.
because Johnson was at Oklahoma State before that. Yeah, because he talked about Dexter Manley already being there when he got there, and there was some famous Dexter Manley said one time something about a car in front of a reporter. Johnson was in earshot, and he made some kind of comment like Johnson just gets there, and Dexter's in his last year with Oklahoma State, and he makes some kind of snide remark about getting a car on the side or something. And, Johnson was like, okay, I got to rein this guy in. And then he goes to Washington as a 5th-round pick and comes in and runs a 4.4 his first camp. He ran a 4.4. He was the fastest guy.
Yeah.
He was the gunner, or, he was the outside guy on the punt team.
Yeah.
Dexter Manley, who goes on to play defense.
Doing defensive tackle, defensive end.
Defensive end. Right? Yeah, but when he got there, he was 235, 240, running a 4.4. They bulked him up to maybe 265 is what he played at. I mean, when he played defensive end, he might have been 265 at 6'3", but he was still probably a 4.5 runner all during that. I mean, he could flat out move. I mean, he could run. Mm-hmm. He was special. He was just a little bit bigger than LT, really, and he kind of did the same thing. Just down in the dirt, one hand down, and just rush every play.
No, who I
remember those. I remember those old Redskin teams because my dad was in the Army. He was stationed in Fort Belvoir, so that was our local game. So I remember ripping Art Monk, Dale Green, Dexter Manley. I remember all those.
No,
games.
Who I like? He wasn't a Washington dude, but I was a big Pepper Johnson fan back in the day. For the Giants.
He's
of course he had LT beside him, so it was like a little harder to for him to stand out, but I liked him a lot.
Well, I was always a huge fan of Harry Carson. And if you ever want to do that kind of the guy cry, just guy crying, have you ever seen when they brought the 5 guys together on the 100th anniversary? So they got Willie Lanier and Mike Singletary. Ray Lewis is running it. And at the end of the table, they got Harry Carson. You can watch, you find on YouTube and LT. And Ray Lewis is kind of running it, and he says, what was your greatest moment? What do you remember? And Singletary said getting their ass kicked by the 49ers is what got them ready to be better in 85. And all of them had a story. And then LT said, right at the end of my career, Harry and I kind of had a falling out. Then he starts to cry. So LT is crying, and Harry Carson puts his hand on his shoulder and says, we've never had this conversation. And the conversation was about when LT was being inducted into the New York Giants Hall of Fame. Carson showed up. And they hadn't spoken. And so when Taylor's getting emotional, he said he always thought I was upset with him. LT, that's somebody I'll know. I love Lawrence Taylor. And he says that. And I thought, man, look at the bond between those two guys. And it was really like Harry Carson was like 11, 12 Pro Bowls. He's a Hall of Famer. People forget how great he was. Mm-hmm. And they were playing together. Harry Carson and Brad Van Pelt was a great linebacker. And then I can't remember Reason's first name was there when they first got there. Oh, Brian Kelly was there for a while too. But they ran a bunch of. So you talk about Pepper Johnson, and then Carl Banks came in. And he was. So they ran. The Giants had a long run there where they had great linebackers. They were special. Yeah,
they really did.
He started the Gatorade dump.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
I know it's been arguments. Somebody said else they did it before, but it was like, nah, it's like, yeah, we started the Gatorade bath on the coach after winning a big game.
That's that thing though between two men of that stature, and he was like. He goes, I didn't invite him. He goes, no, you didn't, but I came. And he goes, yeah. And I look up and there's Harry. And then they settled whatever was going on between them. But Harry Carson's from South Carolina. And Lawrence Taylor's from Williamsburg, Virginia. Two guys from the South.
He went to my dad and uncle went to high school with Lawrence Taylor. They're a few years older than him. So yeah,
Lafayette
High School. Yeah,
and before
still
we get out
they're
of
still
here,
winning. They're still winning football games at Lafayette. They're still out there dominating.
Virginia's pretty good state.
Before
we get out of here, I wouldn't be a real Washington fan if I didn't bring up Wilbur Marshall.
Oh man, you know what? That 1991 season, I thought he was really the best defensive player in the league. And if I'm not mistaken, he didn't get a Pro Bowl that year.
I don't remember. I was
the
like
year we won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It seemed as soon as he left Chicago, it seemed like all the that guy could play. That guy was.
Yeah.
Well, I got a buddy of mine, a baseball buddy, and I'll just say it's Jeff Edwards, and his brother Brad was a safety, number 27. He had 2 picks in the Super Bowl. And I got a chance to meet him one time, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, what's it like to play on the field with these guys? And he was like, you ever notice that I'm dragging Wilbur around by his jersey all the time before the play starts? I said, yeah. He goes, he never came out of our defensive huddle in the right place. He goes, but it never really mattered because once the ball was snapped, he was going to run down whoever it was.
Yeah.
And But he goes, I'd kind of go, no, Wilbur, you're over on this side or whatever. But he said he loved playing with Charles Mann. He loved Wilbur Marshall. He loved the guys he played with. And then, it's a 14-2, and they beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. But yeah, Wilbur Marshall he was like 6'1", 235 maybe. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he was thick, but he could run. Yeah, he was He was a great player.
Old school football players were just built different.
For sure.
It wasn't
Monty Coleman was another one. Monty Coleman was another one. Unless you're not a Skins fan, you don't. 16 years in the league, Central Arkansas, 11th round pick. School doesn't even have football anymore. And a guy plays 16 years in the league. 16 years. And Bobby Beathard found him in the 11th round. Go back and look at the body on that guy. Monty Coleman. You probably remember Monty Coleman.
I've heard the name. I can't picture him, but I know the name.
6'2", 235, 0 body fat. First camp he ran a 4.45. First camp he was in with Washington.
That's nuts.
Yeah. No, you have to go back and see those guys. I mean, go back and pull the pictures. Yeah, Monty Coleman was special. Yeah. He was there for all 4 Super Bowls and won 3 of them under Gibbs. So God bless him. That's my man. I love Monty Coleman. Good old 51.
Sure. Well, yes, this has been a blast. And one more time, Jack, let the people know where they can find you.
All right. I'm on X, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Rumble, but everything you can find for me is moretoconsider.com. You can find me there. Moretoconsider.com shows all the platforms I'm on. You guys are wonderful. God bless you guys. I so appreciate being on the show with you guys. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. It's been awesome.
Thank you for your service to our country, too. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. One of our favorite shows, hands down.
Yeah. So signing off, he is the world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected, born in 100%. Texas, raised in Virginia, representing everything New Jerusalem except for the Jets and the Giants. He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, it's me down here in the Alamo. Your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I go by the name of 25. I see the things that Manny Pacquiao can't see. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Have you a liquid death, and we'll be back on Friday with picks, and more picks. Love y'all.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we